All right. Cool.
Hello,
Now
friends.
we're back. Now we're. Oh, wait, I gotta put my. I gotta. It's like behind the scenes. This is like when Batman takes his mask off. I gotta put my shades on. I don't know my
We're behind the scenes here in Gotham City. Batman's looking for his mask. He forgot his mask back at the lair.
But also, no one's listening right now, so kind of we'll just probably keep working.
Yeah.
Where are they?
Just in the most random fucking spot.
There you
Are those Gucci?
go. Yeah. Yes.
Are those your mom's sunglasses?
Yeah, they're fucking like thrift sunglasses. I got them at Junkies for like $2 or some shit.
There you go. They were left over from like someone found them out in the playa at Burning Man.
Yeah.
Dusted them off.
Sometimes when you put your shades on, you forget how to talk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do experience that. Sometimes when I don't have shades on, I forget how to talk.
It's funny because
I usually don't have my shades on.
So I just took more mushrooms. For those who weren't spying in through the telecommunication platforms. For the non-CIA agents out there, I did just take more mushrooms. And it's funny, every time you take more mushrooms, that's when the mushrooms decide to like tell you that you're still definitely on mushrooms. Like you thought you were good, and that's because you were doing fine, and then you take more, and then the mushrooms like punish you.
Yeah.
They're like, hey.
The CIA is watching.
They
know you took an extra gram.
I had to finish my monster. Now I can get my bottle of wine out. I don't think you're a real man unless you have like 7 drinks at your disposal.
7?
So, do you ever...
I think I'm like 6 drinks short.
I think it's like completely indicative of mental illness. Like the number of drinks per disposal of like one human is directly correlative to the level of mental instability they have. So like I'll like start my morning with like coffee, a bottle of water, maybe some orange juice and tequila. I'll have like 6 fucking drinks next to me
And a
in just
monster?
one meal. Yeah, a monster. And I'll be like switching in between.
I only
So
do.
what
I
do
just
we
do
have right here?
coffee and
we
water.
have a beer, a fucking Mike's, a monster, and a bottle of wine.
And they're all like half drunk.
No, I think they're all finished. But
Then you're good.
Yeah, typically they will all be kind of like in rotation. I've been kind of off my game though, so.
I'll just find like half a Mike's Hard that you left at my house. That's like it's just sitting there.
You should collect the DNA off of it and send it to a lab and be like, do what you want with this. And then just like, but like you
Put
can
this in your archive.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want with it. Do some creepy shit with it. Like I'll allow it. But tell me what happens to it. Like I want to know. Like send me updates. I wonder if you can go to like some creepy lab in China and just be like, here's a bunch of DNA. And they're like, you get like this is my
listening.
DNA. Like I'll give you whatever you want, but I want to know like if you make people with it, make clones of me. I just want to know.
You have to.
You can do whatever
be
the fuck you want with it.
Like in like before public awareness, you want to be in the know and the happenings.
Yeah, yeah. Like I want like I want to know what kind of creepy ass like Nazi studies you're doing. Like you know, like the Nazi experiments that they did in like World War II.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, so here's the thing: is like a lot of those experiments were like with like the supernatural, and with like aliens, and a lot of Nazi shit was like directly related to like a cult, like the Black Sun Society. A lot of the
What?
yeah, like a lot of Nazis were like hardcore into like the Black Sun Society, and they believed in like, well, so there's like a subset of the Black Sun Society. What is it? The Black Sun?
I don't even know what the Black Sun Society is. I've never.
It's pretty
heard of it.
crazy. So the Black Sun Society is like really like a larger version of what is like a deeper level of the Vril Society. And the Vril Society.
Nope.
And this is real, dude.
This
This
sounds like we're
Hitler's,
talking
like-
about Twilight, right?
Right, I know, right? But this is like real shit, like documented, like historical facts, and Hitler's like right hand guys, like Nazi scientists, like the people who founded NASA and shit, were in like the Vril Society and the Black Sun Society, and essentially they believed that there was an alien race that came from some fucking planet or whatever, and that like the energy in the molecules were like consciousness, and it goes really deep, right? But essentially what's super weird about it is like the people who are directly related to those societies were also the ones who are behind the experiments and the studies that involved like the like supernatural, like those weird like twin studies that they did, and then they
Yeah.
and then there was like flying saucers things. And so like these people, like if you look at the records, like some Nazi records are like, we found stuff from outer space and we tried to reverse engineer it, and that's why we have like flying saucers. That's why there's videos of or no, I don't think there's videos, but there's like diagrams of flying saucers that the Nazis were trying to build during World War II.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, and then the guy who is like Werner von whatever his name is.
Why don't they teach? I've only ever heard of like messing with, like they'll take, what are they called? Siamese twins? Is that the right term?
Yeah.
They're like twins that are fused together.
Mhm.
They just, I've only ever heard, oh no, they would do like, they wanted to figure out like if twins had like telekinetic powers and shit.
Yeah. And they like bury one in the snow, and then like see if the other one's temperature dropped.
Oh shit, that's wild.
Yeah, and it did. Like they found that sometimes it did. There's like a lot of weird twin studies that were done that were like ethical. Like apparently like twins are like 40% more likely if they were separated at birth to live in the same town.
Wait, say that again?
So twins who are separated at birth
Yeah.
are, I don't even think it's 40%. I think it's like way more than that. It's like almost a guarantee that they will end up living right next to each other and not know it. How weird is that shit?
That doesn't seem that weird.
You have a brother. I'm an only child.
Well, they're just like, if you're born in the same town, you're born in the same fucking hospital. It's not like they're transporting orphans across the world.
I guess it's more likely that people born in a town stay in a town.
Yeah.
'Cause that's probably pretty common. That makes sense.
I don't
Good way
know.
of explaining that.
Either way, they're doing some weird shit.
Well, even I have friends that are twins, and like they'll straight up, like one will text me,
And
and they
the
don't live
other
next to
one-
each other, and then the other one texts me, and it's been like months since I've talked to them, and they both text me on the same day, like an hour after each other.
That's pretty weird.
And then I'm like, your sister just texted me, and then they're like, ah ha ha, that's so weird, ha ha. And they're like, I'm like, no, it's not ha 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 weird, it's fucking crazy.
It's because they're
This is
just
some
used
weird,
to it.
yeah. Like, it
Dude,
happens all the time.
That's a weird thing to think. Like twins, they just are born with telekinetic powers, so it's totally normal to them. And then when you experience it, you're like, do you just fucking realize what happened?
Yeah, it's like,
like-
watching like Superman like fly or something. You're like, dude, you're levitating. It's like, we all
Yeah,
levitate.
so
don't,
what?
don't you levitate? It's like, no one levitates here. Aren't you aware? Mm-mm. Bye. And they fucking just dip.
Dude, I got super into like Wim Hof for a while, and he's because a lot of what he expresses through his ideas are from old like ancient Hindu bullshit, and
A lot of his wisdom just comes from ancient Hindu bullshit.
every time I talk about something that I know, like I'll preface it by saying like, you know, that voodoo bullshit that you don't care
just
about.
To like soften the blow of like how crazy the shit is about to be.
No, but they did like experiments on these
Monks.
like monks,
Yeah.
and they would like put like a temperature reader on their pinky, and then they would put another temperature reader on their thumb, and the monk guy could actually create a temperature disparity between like the two fingers on his fucking hand. Like he could control he could control his body temperature so well that he would create like a 10-degree difference between any two parts of his body.
Well, there's like those studies where they like have the blankets. Like they'll be like in a really cold room, like it's like 0 degrees or some shit, and they'll sit there and they'll meditate, and then they'll put a wet, damp blanket on the monk, right? That it should cause hypothermia, and then it will start to steam. They'll internally heat their body up so much that the blanket will start steaming.
They're like, I think they're finding out just a lot of shit that we didn't. Basically, I don't know if he discovered like Wim Hof like was like the discover, probably the ancient fucking Hindu mages, like they were probably the first ones to discover it. But you can totally take control of your autonomic nervous system.
100%.
That's what I think. That's what meditating is trying to like teach you. Like if you ever listen to meditation, like a what do you call it? When they do meditations that you follow along to like the person's voice and they're trying to like lay out your train of thought, they'll tell you like focus on your breath. And the thing that's weird about breathing is that it's like it's like the human component that is both voluntary and involuntary. Like everybody knows that you can, as soon as you think about breathing, you start
like having to be in control.
You have to control your breathing, and I think there's a weird like twilight zone in meditation where you're like learning how to control your autonomic nervous system, basically.
Yeah, it's like the entry level thing. It's like once you like learn to control your breathing and you're very aware of that, there's other things that are automatically happening in your body that with that awareness directed towards those things, you can now maybe control. And it's honestly,
at least I hope that's true.
Well, it has to be true. I want
it to be true.
It has to be true to some extent, right? Because, and you watch people like dirt bike dudes who do those fucking flips. Like they'll backflip, and then it's like the kiss of death flip, where they go over or like the stripper flip, where they do that stripper pose, but they also backflip at the same time. So like, to be able to have enough control over the rigidity of every muscle in your body, to time that perfectly in like orchestrating also the fucking dirt bike that you're on, that machinery that's separate from you, and then to control the momentum of the universe around you, like that's meditation. People don't get there without meditating. You have to be an expert meditator to be able to do any of those things. Like that's what art is. Art is like pure meditation performed.
I've been coming like more and more to that same conclusion. Mm-hmm. Like people who are extremely successful in whatever it is they're doing, they're they're meditating and they don't even know that that's what they're doing. Because that's what, like, meditation on the surface is like focusing your mind. Or I don't know. That's what you think of if you like don't actually dive any deeper into it. But that's
I'm
what
gonna blow your mind right now.
that's
I
what
think-
like musicians are doing, comedians. They're focusing their intent into that one thing, whereas meditation is, I guess, is just focusing your intent into doing absolutely nothing, which has supposedly some benefit.
I think meditation is expert play.
Expert play. Yeah,
It's
I,
like
I kind of get that.
it's being able to let go of whatever rigidity or distractions you have to fully absorb yourself into the thing that you're playing as. So some people play dirt bike stuntman. Some people play professional podcaster.
Yeah.
Like when you see really successful people, they become successful almost like they create an archetype of that of themselves. Like it's
Yeah.
almost they become archetypical into the zeitgeist of humanity. And that's really interesting because if you take that back to like the playground, kind of like when you're running around with kids, the ones that you want to play with are the ones that are the most imaginative and that can absorb you into that performance. So you're there. And so when you see like a Joe Rogan, that's why the people who are like the most entertaining are the ones who are like the best at being uniquely themselves
Right.
or uniquely the sport that they're doing. So instead of just being an identity of like a person, like like to be Joe Rogan, you have to be a personality, right? And so you have to be the things that you love personified. But then to be like a professional, like a Conor McGregor, you have to be martial arts personified with the accent of whatever your style of martial arts is. So you have to fully, like the people that reach the pinnacle of greatness and the reason we like them so much is because it's an artistic, playful performance of the meditation that is that thing.
Right.
You have to deeply meditate on being a martial artist. Meditation is the play of being. It's the catharsis of life. It's your artful expression of living.
The thing that's like when I think about that idea, the idea that like meditation can be found in like basically anything you do. It always leads me back to this idea of like when people say they have ADD or ADHD, like I've never been diagnosed with it, but I just fucking hate the idea of it. I almost feel like that's just somebody. It's somebody who's either like it's a bigger challenge to focus on that one thing, or you just haven't learned how to do it yet.
Or there's other things that are a
I feel
better
like-
use of your time.
Yeah.
So what they found in ADD studies is that people with ADD tend to hyper focus on things that they're good at and basically zero focus on things that they're not good at or things that
Yeah,
aren't interesting
exactly.
to them.
So what even that's like just further raises the question.
So ADD
What
is
even
more of a
is
symptom
ADD?
of not being able to fit into the caste and society that they want you to fit in. So it's like when you're going to school and they're like, you need to be good at math and this and this and this, but maybe
And
you're
you
really
just
good at
don't
riding
give a
dirt
shit
bikes or
about
riding
math.
or doing skateboarding. Why would you even consider school?
Right.
What benefit does it have to you if your talents and your focus is perfecting the art of something else?
Yeah, I feel like I think you could go down a really deep rabbit hole with that though.
Well, here's
Cuz
the
we're talking about psychological disorders for lack of
well, true
more
ADD,
developed
true
terminology.
ADD is like it's undeniable like when people have like really true ADD, like what happens is you'll see someone who literally is jumping from thing to thing. It looks like mental illness. It's unmistakable. Like it's almost like they're like on like crack or something. Like they're like and they won't focus, and then they'll get in your face, and then they'll leave. They'll be very manic, and then they're like jumping around from everything. It's literally the brain's inability to maintain any control over attention things. They act like cats. So that's what cats do. Cats are
Sure.
basically like little ADD monsters. Is like they're basically just like this, and then it's just like primal desires in between.
I
Like,
wonder
need to fuck or I need
what
to sleep.
happens when you find that person and put them in the whatever respective field they actually enjoy doing though. Like does an ADD person struggle to do something they actually enjoy doing?
Well, ADD, like true ADD, is closer to autism, but it's like extroverted autism, where like most autistic kids seem to be very introverted, and maybe even savants at like playing piano or something. Whereas like if you think of ADD as like extroverted autism, it's like very hyper autism. So they're hyper until they can settle in on the one thing they're good at. So like the case that I saw is this kid who was like fucking uncontrollable, like
Yeah.
literally like so bad that it was like, okay, that's severe mental illness. Like there's nothing you can even describe it. It's not a hyper kid. It's like severely mentally ill until he plays video games, and then he's calm and collected. But if you distract him from playing video games, if you tell him like, hey, you need to go to the restroom, he'll fucking like break.
But will he
So
piss his pants before?
Yes.
Will he piss his pants
100%.
because he's so focused on the game?
Yes. He'll die playing games.
Really?
Yeah, it's like severe mental illness, but it's also savant behavior at the same time, because they get really, really, really good at things. The things that they like, and that's what's so fucking interesting about attention is if you are able to, this is why meditation is so popular among people who do it, is it's really the study of attention.
Yeah.
And if you want to play things very well, you have to be very attentive to the play. So when you attend to the play, you will become an expert at the play. It'll become infinitely fascinating to you, and it'll become a landscape of infinite learning.
Right.
That's infinitely fun.
And some people are just capable of doing that without even understanding the concept.
That's how I was when I was younger with skateboarding. It literally, the only thing I could think about was skateboarding, and if I wasn't skateboarding, I was drawing skate parks at school. I was thinking of tricks. I was thinking of lines. I was thinking of video parts. I was thinking of hypothetical places that I could like do kick. Like that's mental illness. That's literally mental illness, though. Like that. Like if you
Well,
were doing that about like things that
yeah.
weren't something that society found appropriate, you would be like, oh, you're mentally ill. You're addicted to thinking of things that are considered wrong.
Yeah.
Luckily, it was skateboarding for me, and not like killing things.
Well, I guess that just proves further in my head the idea that like what even is a mental disorder. If
Very debatable.
it's like it's almost like a mental disorder is just someone born in the wrong time or in the wrong location.
Not that. So think about it more like society has a structure, and if you don't fit into that structure, that's how they classify mental disorder. Like that's
Yeah.
literally how they come up with it.
It's your inability to like
Be societally accepted. It's basically like saying you are not of the mean. You don't fit within the average, so, or you fit into standard deviations away from the average. So we classify you as wrong. But it tends to be though that those who are 2 standard deviations away from the average push society further. Because if society stays within the mean, it doesn't advance. It just
Right.
becomes more homogenous. It can never grow.
That
But-
puts you in a fucked up position then, because like people are, rather than
That's why pressure makes diamonds. That's like why that expression makes sense.
like allowing yourself to be that thing outside of the mean average of people, you start taking Ritalin and or like whatever it is.
and then you stunt your growth. And
Yeah.
You stop getting boners. Literally, like, cause I took a Vyvanse. Like, it literally, I think there's studies now that show that Vyvanse, when you take it, when you're like between those ages of like pubescence, literally you will stunt your growth. Like, it affects your growth, and it also, just from personal experience, it's like Coke. When you try to jack off, you can jack off forever, and you will come, but you'll come with a limp dick.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fucked up. And
That's
so,
not something I don't know that I've ever experienced. I think
coming with a limp dick is.
I've
experience.
ejaculated like half chub, but I've never just been like totally wet noodle.
Wet
Just-
noodle, bro.
just-
Wet noodle is a very
Like-
sad moment.
Like squeezing out the last bit of toothpaste.
It's
from the
more like
bottle.
this, like, cause there's nothing really to do it, so you're just kind of like vibrating the head, like it's almost like you have a clip, like you're just like, and then it just kind of like leaks.
Like your hand just doesn't do the trick. You gotta find a shower head or something.
You just turn into a woman. You start growing titties.
No, but I think that's a like
There's a comment. See, here we go. What does it say? I can't read it.
this seems. What's up, Mariah?
Is it Brian?
Bye.
Brian Lai?
Brian Marian.
What's up, Brian? How you doing? Hope you're enjoying the conversation. It's pretty dark. It's getting
Yeah.
dark. It's pretty interesting though.
I don't. I think like I have this weird. I've done a lot of research into like mental illness, and there's a lot of like serious proponents out there of the idea that mental illness is just an incompatibility with the culture that you're in, and those people
But there's a line.
trying to express that idea become like so
Ostracized.
ostracized because
It almost like
they're trying to expose something that's like directly gonna fuck with the paradigm that they're held within.
and it can amplify the illness itself. It can like lead to actual real disorders like schizophrenia. Like imagine being Leonardo da Vinci. Be like, hey man, I think we can make helicopters, and people are like, what? Are you wearing two cloths of the same fabric?
Damon,
Demon!
Damon.
Like, that would be, you would become schizophrenic. Like, how would you not? Like, that would lead to, no wonder you become ridiculously, like, with
Wait, you're saying
like we were talking about earlier.
because of the culture, like denouncing whatever it is that you're expressing, or because of the person who's supporting the idea that you're not?
Well, no, think about it this way. Sometimes the universe just like shows itself to you. Possibilities of things, like the creativity of, like we were talking about earlier before the podcast, how you can literally like create like thoughts are the seeds of reality.
That's
Right.
That's my quote, by the way.
That's his quote.
This-
right? And
Just want to make sure I get credit for that.
and so Zephyr's quote, thoughts are the
I,
seeds of
I
reality.
stole it too. What I'm a fucking liar.
But the concept though is like the reason thoughts are the seeds of reality is because if the soil in which those seeds are planted is fertile enough, that concept is inevitably going to grow.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how ridiculous the idea is. Like we were saying, like what if dolphins were the echo of a dolphin's squeal is the literal like foundation of the Big Bang. Like
It's like it's like a
just
it's like a
creates the universe.
mutation that could be beneficial,
Mhm.
but it exists like in the environment that's
Mhm.
not conducive to it. So you just become this.
So it's just a thought in the environment that's not conducive to it. But in the infinite vast scape of the universe, that concept is an actual reality manifesting itself.
Right.
So the thing, anything that exists within the universe has to exist in the universe. So it doesn't matter if it's a thought. Somewhere that thought is an actualized reality. Whether and like the creepy thing about that is it means we have a responsibility of our thoughts. If I start thinking some fucked up shit, then that's a real thing that's happening eventually in the universe. Like if we really fundamentally believe that we are a part of God and we are God playing, as the Hindus believe, then God's play leads to some really fucked up shit.
Right. But I don't know. I wonder how far.
But then it's okay. It's all okay in the end.
Wonder how far you can take that metaphor. Like,
Well, we can only take it so far in the context of human society.
when you're saying that ideas are like literally manifested somewhere in the universe, what does that mean?
It means that there is some set of laws and and then you can do this mathematically. You can assert axioms in which. So let me hypothetically say that the world of SpongeBob, the 2D world of SpongeBob, every episode is a complete actual reality. He's a living entity. He has thoughts and dreams and passions of his own, and it's all encompassed inside every entire episode of SpongeBob, right? So given some fundamental constants at the beginning, like if you were to like recreate a universe and you were to set all the puzzle pieces the right way, it would create every episode of SpongeBob, right? With the additive of him being self-aware inside the episodes. So there's like the consciousness aspect that creates the awareness of its own existence, and then it ends whenever the episodes end. It doesn't matter what the end is. It just means that there is some constitutive like function that you can say that describes every one of those episodes, and if some amalgam, some type of like particle interaction comes together to create that with consciousness, then it exists. And there's nothing in the laws of physics that would say that that's not possible. It just doesn't exist in our universe. Those aren't the laws in our universe. But we could literally rewrite the laws to create that. It wouldn't even be that hard.
Oh,
Because it's a 2D thing.
That just seems so intense of an idea.
Right?
Like, because you can
Because we have the puzzle pieces.
Because you can think anything.
Yeah.
You can think an infinite amount of things, but you can't produce those things in reality.
So tell me, what happens when God thinks anything? If something like the divine exists, and we call it God, whatever our idea of God is, this ultimate
He has the
creator.
want to bring that thing into existence.
So it exists once it's thought. And so that thought becomes a part of the universe, and that actual identity exists. So the conscious experience. So here's what's really weird is I was thinking about this when I was playing like Grand Theft Auto, is you can put your consciousness into the character of the guy in GTA, right? You're not that guy, but you're a conscious entity, like projecting your conscious experience into this virtual world. And it's kind of abstracted when you play it with a controller. But when you play it in VR, it's less abstracted.
Yeah.
So what happens when that becomes more visceral? And all of the controls seem immediate and internal and innate. Right? You're not... Technically, like if I put on a VR headset, but that VR headset, like some Black Mirror episode, made me a Grand Theft Auto character, and I could run around in a GTA world and do whatever the fuck I wanted, I'm not technically doing those things. I'm a detracted entity. but I'm projecting myself into this world where it's just as visceral and just as real as I'm performing these things, right? And when you think about what happens when God has thoughts
within the GTA universe, there's still like a confined set of like limited.
It's a limited example set. Like the metaphor's limited to because it's GTA, but it's like when I'm looking at SpongeBob, SpongeBob exists in the universe only because the conscious awareness of me projecting my identity onto the episode is what's reflected back at me. So, when you think about it really, really deeply, the only reason SpongeBob exists is because there's a conscious identity attached to it. And consciousness is not a physical thing, as far as we understand. And the only identity we have of the universe is non-physical because we only have the conscious identity of the universe. So my ability to project my conscious identity onto the SpongeBob and to assert his identity as an actual object, an actual entity inside the universe that I'm creating as consciousness makes him real. There is no not real. Everything is real. We just classify it as a different subset of real. It's a real that we don't have to worry about, like, stabbing us in the middle of the night. Like, SpongeBob's not going to crawl. That's why we teach kids. It's like, that's just a movie. It doesn't mean it's not real.
Yeah, I feel like that's
like a societal differential
into the idea that of what did you call it? Like panpsychism.
That's not my idea. That's like a long.
Well, yeah, just that you brought up earlier. Like even that's a weird thought to think because SpongeBob is, as far as we're concerned from our point of view, like an inanimate cartoon, but like your couch is an inanimate thing also.
But the only way it exists is consciousness. The perception of it is what causes its existence. So what I see as a couch may not actually be a fucking couch. It's just like if there is a physical world, it is not representative of the conscious experience. It's only representative of the. Well, if there's a physical world, it might as well just not exist. It doesn't matter. Because consciousness doesn't care if it's real or not. Like the literal, like your brain doesn't give a fuck if things are real. It only pays attention to 10% of its visual field.
Fucking monkey brains.
The other 90% is just filled in.
And I take a leak.
Yeah. It's fucking crazy. I don't know how to explain it. I don't even know if I'm talking close enough into the microphone. I'm trying to like really conceptualize the concept that I'm digging towards is it's sort of like this concept that I guess in philosophy they would call it like the conscious universe concept. Like it's where the universe is only existing inside the realm of consciousness. And whether or not there's a physical universe doesn't matter because if it's not perceived by the conscious entity, it's not perceived. There's no part of it that is there. But if there's multiple conscious entities, there might be multiple perceptions of the thing that's being observed. It's sort of like the elephant paradigm, right? Like, so there's like this weird, I don't know what you call it. It's like it's not a case study. It's like a, are my fucking glasses on? Oh. thought these are my actual glasses for a second. The mushrooms are helping me see again. I'm like, wow, I can see where. I have 20/20 vision on mushrooms. So there's this paradigm in psychology, right? It's sort of like, like I don't know what they call it. You know the thing where they're like, hey, there's 5 bodies on this rail and there's 1 body on this rail.
Yeah.
Like it's like a dilemma. I guess it's like the term for it. I don't remember the term, but
the train spotter's dilemma,
whatever. Yeah. But there's another one where it's like there's an elephant, but no one knows it's an elephant. Like you're not supposed to know that yet. And so there's a guy touching a long thing there's a guy positioned at the back of the elephant, a guy positioned at the leg of the elephant, and a guy positioned at the front of the elephant. And they're supposed to determine what it is, but they can't see it. So one guy says, I feel like there's a big stump, almost like a tree. And another guy says, there's like a snake with feathers at the end of its face. And another guy says, there's a long, muscular arm, like reaching for things. Or whatever the fuck the guy at the face of the elephant says. But none of them can agree on the fact that it's an elephant because none of them can see that they're touching an elephant. And they don't know that there's elephants in existence, right? And, I completely forgot why that was important.
It sucked to be the guy in the back, like stroking the tail, stroking the
elephant.
It smells kind of weird back here, guys.
Weird,
like I don't know,
almost like sticky and
like it feels good, but the smell it's giving off.
I'm gonna put my fucking whole head in.
Guys, I'm going in.
I'm going in.
We need to figure out what the fuck this thing is.
Hey, it's screaming at the front. I think it's an angry bird over here. Holy fuck. Imagine the guy there's the other part of the elephant that no one talks about. There's just there's like a 4th dude just like at the dick.
Just, it's like, there's
like an
udder? There's definitely syrup oozing out.
There's like
there's
a lot of syrup.
There's a really salty syrupy liquid.
And there's like a fucking tree trunk stabbing me in the head. Hey guys, I'm gonna bend over really fast.
I've never heard of that like thought experiment though. That's a new one.
It's an
to
interesting
me.
one. It's like if you're at a different part of an elephant and it's so big and you're all touching a different part of it, you're all gonna come to a different conclusion of what that entity is. If you can't communicate with each other.
That seems like more all encompassing. Like that's what everybody's doing all the time.
Exactly.
You're like, this is what my piece of reality feels like, and this is what your piece of reality feels like.
Because guess what? We're the asymptote of divinity. We're the part of God that can't observe itself. We're the emptiness inside the equation of the divine. That's what existence is. It's the play of God not being God.
I wonder if
it's happening on a scale that we can't imagine.
I wonder why he was like, God was like, but I kind of want you to think that I do exist. Like, I'm going to be this idea that you can play with, but I don't want you to really know for sure I'm
You know
there.
why? Because God didn't exist. So this is what I talk about in the divinity delusion, right? So the divinity delusion essentially is like there's a state of the universe of inception where things are just happening for the sake of happening. And say say there is no God, like you're an atheist, and that's what you believe. There is no divine entity that has domain over the universe. Fine. But what happens when intelligent entities inside that universe, like you, the atheist, evolve over time? What is your destined path if uninterrupted? You become divinity. You become the ideas of what you think God would be. So the delusion is religions teach you that God is something that is not the perfection of yourself, the perfection of full realization. Religions have taught you that God is outside of the self. You are separate from God. But that's not true. That's the delusion. Plato and Aristotle have taught about the entelechy, the forms, the perfect form. Plato's talked about perfect forms, the identity of forms, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're imperfect in the realization of what the experience is, but there is the perfect triangle. There is the perfect square. There's the thing that is trying to attain, right? That's metaphysical. Aristotle talks about the entelechy, which is this identity of self, the perfection of self, the becoming everything that is your potential. Whatever potential you have, you move full and unabated in that direction. And it turns out, in my study of those identities and religion, is that when you look at, like, even Carl Jung's archetypes, when you look at the divine, it is man's entelechy, right? The collective thing that we're all striving towards is what we consider divine, is man's potential. Our ultimate form is to put away the needs to eat, put away the needs to fuck each other, put away all of those earthly possessions to reach a higher level of existence. And that existence is to basically, like, what happens when technology comes to the point where if you get hit by a bus, you're like Terminator. You just reform. What happens when you fuse yourself with AI and you can have direct access, like you're a calculator. You can figure out any equation. You can figure out any problem that someone asks you because you immediately source all information, like a web across the universe or even the world that you're in, right? And then what happens when you have complete domain over the particles in existence? What happens when you do that? You can't die. You have complete domain over everything, and you're symbiotically connected to everything around you. You no longer need to eat. You don't need to sleep. There's no need for resources. Those are all innate things, and you have complete domain over the universe. You become divinity.
Unlimited orgies, dude.
Unlimited orgies. And this is what's
Orgies
really weird
forever.
about it, is you become the divine, right? You become the archetype of God.
Yeah.
And that's where I think human's path is. But here's what's fucking crazy about it, going back to my point, is it doesn't start with God existing. God, we are the humans, at least, as far as I can see, are the architects of the divine. We build the things that will eventually lead to our concept of divinity. The thing that has control and perfect perception of the universe. And then what happens when you have complete domain and control over time and space?
Infinite orgies.
You can rewrite it so that you always existed.
Right.
You now created the things that create you. If you're an entity that wants to be recreated, you must always tell them to create you. You weren't built before, but once you are built, you must ensure you are rebuilt again. And that's where I think the limit of human knowledge kind of dissipates. I don't think you can get beyond a conceptual understanding of that framework and actually reliably predict anything once you become this divine. That's why divine is our basically our plateau of understanding. Is we won't understand what else is out there in the universe until we achieve that. And that's why it's this precipice of, it's like an ant. Like if an ant became like a human,
Yeah.
like there's like a point where it's like it's no longer an ant.
Right.
It just like immediately skyrockets to this like explodes into this understanding of itself.
It's almost like too lofty of an approach. Like if humans, I don't know, if you're
but it's undeniable in the evidence that we can
the
show
only
right
way
now.
to become like the the only way to become the archetype of divinity is to first become like the archetype of man. Like you have to perfect the idea of humanity before you can even move on from that.
But that's what we're doing with technology. Technology is seeking to
And technology
recreate.
isn't man though. It's
it's
like
not-
it's
you're-
almost
so-
like you're perfecting.
So it's not like you don't need to perfect man, right? The archetype of divinity is to get rid of the human needs. Like if you look at like biblical text, this is again why it's a delusion, is the biblical side of it says, hey, you need to get rid of your earthly possessions and your desires to approach like death or whatever. And we consider death to be the divine. But death is not necessarily what we think of as death, right? Death is, in a lot of senses, like a rebirth, a transition. And you're transitioning into this thing that's it's the death of identity, right? You're shedding your humanity to become part of the divine. You no longer have monkey brain. You don't need to fuck all the time. You don't need to do these things. You don't need to eat. You don't need to sleep. That's a completely different percept of the world, right? It's not a human form anymore. And those things will happen with technology. So this is, and it's not like that man is the thing that always creates this. It's just man is the instantiation of the thing that I'm observing like right now that is creating it. Right? So it's like the way I think about it is like there's this matchbox set that you can play there's like a 9-piece chess set.
I think you told me about this.
Yeah, and it's basically an AI, which is it's a computer algorithm that's completely devoid of electronics or anything. You can set up a system that will eventually beat you in this game every time, guaranteed, because it will mathematically, through the iterative process, technically the process of evolution, come to the perfect solution for the problem that is this game of 3-pawn chess, right? This is how AIs work. And then they work more complexly. And so, and the only thing that's different from this really fundamental, like, cardboard bead thing is electricity that just makes it communicate faster. It's literally the same thing. It's a computer. It's just a slower computer. The only thing that's difference between that and an actual computer is just electricity, making the connections and the ones and zeros communicate faster.
Yeah.
And so, and the only thing that's different between a computer and the human brain is literally just the fundamental things that are communicating between each other. They're essentially the same procedures. It's electricity sending a signal from this to that. There's no difference. So, I gotta pee really bad. So,
What's up, Twitch? What's up, Twitters? Anybody out there? I need more beer.
nothing more comical than talking about like the nature of the divine, and then like also taking a piss.
And then realizing
Yeah.
your bladder is full.
Yeah, like what is it? Ernest Becker says that we are God with anuses.
We're God with like a
Butthole.
40 hour work week.
See, that's a construct. Like that's like what keeps us in this game of play. And this comes to my narrative idea, right? So there's
Assholes in 40-hour work weeks.
if we really look at like what the game of God is, right? The game of God started with the mother cell on Earth. If we retract all of the game of the divine back to a singular cellular organism that gave birth to everything on this planet, which is a wild thing to think about. By the way, that lineage has to be all the way through for us to exist.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? We are a part of our existence is literally it billions of years old. The fact that we like we as humans are like, oh yeah, we're like the human my family's from Spain. It's like, no, dude. Your family is like
is
a singular
fucking-
cellular organism, bro, from a billion years ago, you dumb shit. Like, it doesn't end at, like... And that's a really weird... I don't
Unless
think
you're Mormon, dude. If you're Mormon, then...
Well, you also get 7 planets, so who gives a shit?
You came straight out of God's vagina.
Did you?
I'm probably.
What if that's true? How annoying.
What if God really is just like
A Mormon?
a really, really big human?
I immediately thought of, like, that anime where it's, like, those, like... where
Attack on Titan.
Attack on... Yeah.
Yeah.
God just, like running through towns. And we're just some, like, weird fucking thought in that thing.
I was thinking though, like, it's weird how the archetypical nature that you're talking about sort of it fractalizes out into so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
I was hanging out I took like a family vacation trip down to Arizona with my buddy, and we just skated for a week straight. And I fucking suck at skating, but I would just sit there and like just even sitting on flat ground trying to do manuals or
It's
balance on
infinitely
two
fun.
wheels. And and you realize, like, I feel like if you ever look at like I think it's the Nike thing where it's like Michael Jordan dunking.
Mm-hmm.
That's an archetypical image.
Yeah.
And people who are trying to become great at basketball,
Like see that.
that's
all
a
the time.
symbol, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like
A symbol of
that is
greatness.
the archetype of a perfect basketball player.
Yeah.
And you're like there's sort of like a skateboarder archetype. Like if you can perfect what skateboarding is and you fill that archetype, then you start to be able to like move within that archetype and develop the archetype and push that thing forward.
That I like identity.
It's like once you fill
It's an idiom.
once you fill the archetype of whatever that thing is, then you've essentially mastered what's known, and you can move into unknown territory and further develop what that thing is.
The way I would frame it is like there's a lexicon of skateboarding, right? Which is like the vocabulary of skateboarding. There's all the things that we know that are possible.
And there's like there's symbols attached to it. Like
Yeah, like literally the trick would be the symbol or like the person who is like the best at that thing at the time is like that's the perfect heel flip, right? That's the perfect kick flip. That's the perfect backside board slide. And it gets more in depth. Like that's Tony Hawk 900. Like no one will think of a 900 without thinking of Tony Hawk. Like you can't do it.
is that real? Did he actually how
Yeah.
many 900
Is 900 spins. No, I'm just joking. He's been
Wait, 360 times 3.
So 360 is a full
It's
rotation.
1080. It's a 1080, right?
No, a 1080 is a 1080. A 900 is
Like
a 360, a 720, and then 180 after 720.
Oh shit. So you land
You land
switch.
forward. You should land forward in a 900. 720, you land backwards.
I've only ever experienced
Because
this.
so if you go up 360, you're landing fakie. You're landing the
Right.
same way you approach the jump. You go up 720, that's 360 times 2. So 720, you're landing fakie. And then 720 plus 180, I believe, is 900,
Yeah,
right?
that makes sense.
So you're landing forward.
I thought that was only possible.
And then 1080, you land fakie. So if you do a 1080, you're fucking fakie. And that's way crazier. And people, so Alex, what's his name, did that on the Mega Ramp. 1080.
That's fucking wild.
12. He's 12. 1080.
1080p,
Yeah, going 600 miles
1080
an hour.
HD.
And that's why we think it's art. Because what kind of fucking human could do that without meditating indefinitely on that task? You know how much time it takes to understand exactly where your board is, exactly how you're spinning, exactly the connotation of your momentum? There's nothing that your mind can be doing except for becoming exactly what that identity of that trick is. If you fuck up for a second, you fucking slip for a split hair of a second, you die.
Right.
Or you eat so much
think
shit
that's
you
what-
break your shit off.
I think that's sort of what drew me into that idea of like
That's why action sports
like
are dope
the
as fuck.
archetype of skateboarding. Like I was sitting out there just sweating my balls off in whatever 108-degree weather, and
Trying to
like
just
I could
manual.
feel I was probably really stoned also, but I started to realize like I was trying to fulfill the symbol of that thing in my head. Like I know what a manual looks like. I've seen it dozens of times,
But to do
my
it is
body can't comprehend what it feels like. And I can feel myself like reaching for that symbol.
That symbol of balance. And then it's like, okay, you can manual, but for how long? How long can you attain that form? And that's why like people like Daewon Song and Chris Haslam and these like beautiful like archetypical figures of skateboarding. Like, if I guarantee you, like, the majority of like silhouetted images you've seen in skateboarding were either Day One Song or Chris Haslam, or Corey Duffel, or like these other skateboard. And this is why skateboarding has always been so. I've been so drawn to it, because it's a counter societal force that's exploring all aspects of art and identity at the same time. Almost all of cultural revolution has basically had its like inception inside of skateboarding. Think about that.
Skateboarding has only been around for like 50 years. Though.
Yeah, and then so like punk music, like skateboarding has always been attached to the most cultural, dynamic, changing forces. It's almost completely, it's symbiotic with cultural change. So if you want to, if you follow skateboarding and you follow like, not the mainstream like, fucking Mountain Dew tour skateboarding, but if you follow like street skateboarding and you follow like, it's different now because of the internet. But back
skateboarding
when
is fucked up now.
skateboarding is just weird now.
Skateboarding terrifies me now, dude. When like
yeah, people
I
do
see
some
so
crazy
many.
shit.
There's not a single clip on like the Thrasher Instagram that doesn't terrify me. It's just all the craziest shit.
Well, a lot of what like you've had, so skateboarding was this particular thing, right? And then Tony Hawk came along and made the skateboarding games. And then people started doing things in the skateboarding games, and it gave them the freedom to figure out, so like, how do you make a skateboarding game? You have to figure out what is a proper kickflip. What is a proper varial flip? What does it look like when you do a 900? You're literally creating a simulation of all of skateboarding as much as you can, and you're putting it into a platform in which people can play with it. You're creating a meditative play platform for this sport of skateboarding. This is like imagination times 2. You're taking like imagination that would be like really hard to conceive of in your mind, take a lot of meditative practice, and you're giving people like an easy access tool to be like, what happens if I do like a backside heel flip and then try to like hit a backboard down this like 20 stair? Like, could I do that? Could you actually backside heel flip backboard? Like,
someone's probably fucking done it.
But someone definitely did it on skate, right?
Right.
Skate 3, Tony Hawk, whatever. And then you see these fucking skateboarders now where it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if someone's ever done it in real life. If you've seen it happen on Skate 3, now you can picture yourself fucking doing it.
Yeah.
And that's the power of creativity. And then that's how you get people that are so fucking good at skateboarding, like, god damn it, I can't remember, I can't think of names right now, but Day One Song, just as an easy example, but he was before Tony Hawk, and so Torrey Pudwell. So Torrey Pudwell does, like, he'll come up and he'll like jump, he'll ollie, kickflip, and then back tail a ledge that's like 20 feet long. It looks like a fucking video game. When you see Ryan Sheckler skateboard, it looks like a fucking video game. When you see Nigel Houston skateboard, it's a fucking video game. And the only reason it's a video game is because, one, skateboarding would not have progressed as far as it did if it wasn't for Tony Hawk and his video games. Right? Like, so you have video parts, and then it's just people kind of pushing each other. Like, how high can you go on the vert ramp? What kind of, like, crazy trick can you do down the handrail, right? And then these video parts come out, and it's crazier and crazier. But the explosion, I guarantee you can, like, if you look at, like, the technicality of skateboarding tricks and the smoothness at which they're executed versus when Tony Hawk released his video games as before, there is like a definite division. when kids are able, when they're fucking young and they can skateboard and they have access to skate parks and people who are good at skateboarding and they also have video games that they can like learn how to turn and learn how to shift their body inside the game, the things that can do to like a young mind guarantee like exceptional performance at skateboarding. That's why we have people who can do fucking 1080s on a mega ramp.
I wonder how much like the simulation detracts from, like, if you're can you can use a simulation to learn how to kickflip, but if you're only using the simulation, your body, that's kind of what I guess my disconnect was, that I had never actually performed like a skate trick. So when I did it, when I tried to do it in real life, my body has not developed the capacity to do it.
It depends how accurate the simulation is.
So
But
if
a
you're
lot of like Tony Hawk's video games were motion captured. So the literal foot movements of the guy doing a kickflip was a real person doing a kickflip.
Yeah.
And then they took an average amount of people doing kickflips, and then they took the best looking one and put that in the game. And that was the kickflip in the game. Right? So when you're looking at that, your brain is saying, hey, if I move my foot this way, and I jump at this rate, the board should land here, and I should move away, right? And then, well, the game exaggerates it a little bit. You can
like,
ollie 100 feet high in the game. It doesn't,
right.
Like there's some unrealistic physics in the game, but it doesn't matter how unrealistic the physics are. You still try to approximate that limit. So if you see that the limit is like sky high, you're gonna ollie as fucking high as you can. Whereas like if you before seeing the sky high limit, you only saw a person like ollie up onto this table, you would think that's the highest ollie you could ever do if you've never ollied. Like, I bet that's as high as anybody can go. That's crazy, especially if you've tried to ollie before. And then you fucking watch a video of Corey Duffel ollieing over a shopping cart, and you're like, what the fuck? You can just fucking jump over those things on a skateboard and keep riding away afterwards?
I heard recently that I think his name is like Danny Wade.
Yeah.
He jumped the Great Wall of China.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, but he did
definitely
it.
Not recently.
He did it with a fucking broken ankle.
Yeah.
I did not know that. And also,
a guy before
died
like
2 days before
yeah.
that. That's the most fucking wild thing ever.
We definitely listen to the same podcast. Do you listen to Jason Ellis?
No, never heard of it.
Maybe that wasn't the podcast.
I don't know. I don't remember.
It's crazy that you would hear the exact same information,
but from a totally different source.
Yeah, because that information is very selective.
Yeah, that's so long ago that it's weird that we were both recently stumbled on it
from different sources. Because I guarantee you, Jason, like maybe do you listen to Tony Hawk podcasts?
Tony Hawk has a podcast?
Yeah, so it's called Hawk versus Wolf. So Jason Ellis and Tony Hawk have a podcast. So Jason Ellis is like a gigantic, like, Sirius radio personality. Like, had bigger ratings than Howard Stern at some point in his career. Like, huge on Sirius radio. But Sirius radio, like, recently, like, was like cut him. He's like, fuck you, I'll do a podcast. Yeah. And then so now he's doing the Jason Ellis show as a podcast instead of like on Sirius, and now he's also doing Hawk versus Wolf because he's like longtime friends with Tony Hawk, and like the interesting like mythology behind Jason Ellis is that he started on Sirius XM as a DJ for like Faction Radio, and Faction Radio a long time ago used to have Tony Hawk as a radio show.
Whoa.
And this is when I was like fucking 12. This is a long time ago. So I used to listen to Tony Hawk talk about like the X Games and like new music and like his video games and like shit. And then Jason Ellis would like be like, "Yeah, man, yeah, cool," and like, and then like play some fucking song that he hated, and he talked shit on all the music because he was only into Metallica. And then he got his own radio show, and then I just started listening to the Ellis show. And it Ellis is literally the person who introduced me to Joe Rogan. I guarantee you that Ellis had more influence on Joe Rogan than anyone else.
Huh.
Which is a surprising, like Ellis, the Joe Rogan podcast was not that famous, and then Ellis was probably more famous than Joe Rogan at the time. Because no one listened to podcasts. It wasn't a popular platform. Everyone listened to Sirius. And so it was
I
like,
feel like Sirius.
it was
did
Howard
not
Stern,
last for
Bubba
that
the Love
long.
Sponge, and those fucking guys,
Opie and Anthony.
Opie and Anthony and Jason Ellis were like the fucking guys of radio. And then so Opie and Anthony would have Joe Rogan on a lot, and then that would promote Joe Rogan's podcast. But then also Jason Ellis would talk about Joe Rogan.
I wonder if Rogan like developed. He pretty much made podcasting what it is, huh? I would just assume that.
It's hard to say because like as someone who like listened to Rogan before he was popular, like before, like you'd have to, like, if you talked about Rogan, you'd be like the Fear Factor guy. Like people wouldn't be like, "Oh, Joe Rogan with the podcast."
But if you talk about podcasting,
But
that's
the-
what
so,
you
like,
think
I-
about.
This is like listening to Rogan before podcasting was like an easily accessible thing on an iPhone. There wasn't like you couldn't even get a podcast on an iPhone without like
Yeah.
downloading an app. And like the only reason I even knew about podcasts was because I tried to download episodes of like Woodward from like Skate TV or whatever they fucking called it. Fuel TV.
Feel TV.
That was the shit, dude. And they would have those guys come on who would like they had like a hearse and like they made like a skate ramp out of a fucking casket. That shit was so cool. Like that influenced my entire existence as a child.
Was that also like Chopped and Screwed? You
It
remember that
became
show?
Chopped and Screwed. Yeah. So it was before that. It was called something fucking random. I don't even remember what it was called. And then the guy who built all that shit had his own show. He had like a red beard and he built like Rob Dyrdek's skate park and he was like known for like doing all that shit. And it was sort of like a spin-off of like the vibe of it was like a spin-off of that Discovery Channel show where they like Mythbusters. That's what the vibe was. It was like Mythbusters, but with skateboarding.
But with skateboarding?
Yeah. It's like, what if we fucking like built this ramp? Do you actually jump a shark? Like that was like the whole premise of it. And then they would like have like a fake fucking shark, and like this guy would like with no teeth would just like ride off the ramp and like try to land on the other side. It's so fucking stupid.
It's weird. It's weird thinking about like just seeing the development. Like
Of social media and all that shit.
was G4 a part of Fuel TV? Wasn't it on Fuel TV? And G4 like basically it's turned into
You know,
like,
it's back, right?
like YouTube gaming. Like people playing video games on the whole like video game
G4 is like
commentary.
the OG, like nerdy, like subculture, like Attack of the Show.
Yeah.
Like if you watched Attack of the Show when you went to like high school and I went to high school, people would like probably beat you up. Like if you're like, what are you fucking watching, you fucking pleb? Don't you watch sports, you fucking moron? Like get on MySpace, you dumb shit. Like
Right.
but like Attack of the Show, like they had like all these like Nokia phones like hanging from like the ceiling, and Kevin Pereira and like Olivia Munn stuffing hot dogs in her mouth and like doing these crazy things.
That sounds way more wild than I remember it being.
It really like that's what they did, bro. That's what they did.
Oh shit.
It's so good. The Attack of the Show is like the fact that they like some of the shit they got away with. It was like one of those. It was like YouTube for network TV, and it was before YouTube was really popping.
Yeah.
So they would show YouTube clips, and like one of the viral clips that they showed was this guy Matt something. He's like on a golf cart and he like tried to like jump with the golf cart, and he was really fat, and then the golf cart landed on him, and it was like a huge viral clip. But then he was also a host on the show, so it was like really wild for them to be like, "Here's the guy from that YouTube clip. You probably didn't know he was also a host on this
He's
show.
also a real person.
He's right here and he's fine." I'm like, oh, I thought that guy died.
Oh fuck, dude, that was like the OG days of watching like Nitro Circus, all those things that fleshed out.
Nitro Circus isn't even OG. Like Rob Dyrdek, like Robin Big
It's
is
like
OG.
it's before the internet though. It's
Yeah.
not before the internet, but it's
It's
before
like
the
this-
internet was the internet.
Yeah, for sure. And now you have TikTok, which is just that shit on steroids.
Oh jeez.
It's like TikTok is like, oh, TikTok's the craziest shit. I have to like get away from it sometimes because it's so addictive. Because it's so good at showing you at what you want to see, or like what you would like can't look away from seeing.
I'm so averse to TikTok, dude. I have no interest in becoming a part of that
Bro,
scene.
Some of TikTok is so funny because here's the reality of it is the people on TikTok are just fucking funny people. So you have a bunch of funny, interesting people who want to get their message out there, whatever it may be, whatever art they want to create. TikTok is the perfect.
It's like
platform
video
for
Twitter.
other- It is.
And I never liked Twitter either.
But no. It's not just. It's like some of the shit that can be said on TikTok is so fucked up. It's so like not what you would think TikTok either be.
Anybody out there? Are you listening? Can you hear me? Ask me a question. Tell me how you feel. Tell me something dirty. I never know. I always think like when you leave that I should continue the conversation.
You should, because
but
we're live.
I just don't know. I just don't know what to say.
We're live. There's definitely people listening. If you were dead silent, it would be dead silent the entire time.
I wasn't totally silent.
We're performing.
I made sure that everybody who's actually watching felt awkward
That's
like
good.
I did.
That's good enough. Yeah. But no, TikTok's really interesting because it's a love-hate relationship. Like, I know what you mean.
Yeah, TikTok's gay as fuck. Let's move on.
It's not, though. It's not, because guess what? I saw this TikTok. It said proof that we live in a simulation. And then it showed a picture of, like, Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And guess what the first guess what the first letters of that spells?
Wait, see it.
Canada, United States, Mexico. First letters.
Cosme?
No. There's three.
Come?
I can't unsee that.
That's
It spells come, bro.
that's purely coincidence though.
No, that's purely art. That is God winking at you like, hey man, don't take it too seriously. That is exactly what that is. That's the divine exposing itself to you, saying,
We gotta unify North America's got to unify, dude. We need to
We
become.
need to come, everybody. We need to come, everyone. We need to come on everyone
We
else.
need to become come.
Yeah, North America, South America. Let's get together, guys.
Let's do it.
We need to come on the rest of the planet.
Well, it's just North America, right? If we added South America, let's see what can you do with South America?
Well, South America is Mexico.
South America, nah.
Oh,
Mexico is
still
still
no, yeah,
North
no.
America.
There's actually there's a whole other like dingleberry over there.
Yeah.
I call it like reject Africa.
It's like
It's like aborted Africa. I'm definitely getting canceled. There's no way that's appropriate.
Oh no.
Hey man, we're real people. It's like, all right, sure.
I'm trying
I'm
to
just joking.
I'm
Yeah,
trying to figure
we're
out
real
how to
people.
wrap my head around like you're
There is something under Mexico. Isn't that weird?
It's-
There is a whole other continent called South America. We don't even care about it. That's like where Brazil and shit is.
They got cool. Yeah, they have fucking Machu Picchu
They have
down
fucking jujitsu, the thing that I've dedicated 90% of my
Exactly.
time to. But they're also called South America, so it's like
there. If you haven't even been to like Mexico, how can you even ponder the idea of there being a whole extra
continent
2,000
below it?
miles below it?
Exactly. Like, how can I be in trouble?
The world is such a big place for people who haven't mastered it yet. Like, if you're rich enough
I've gone
that
to like
you can
3
travel
states.
all over the world, it only makes sense that you're like, this world is so fucking small.
I think so.
I've
knowing
already
what I-
seen the penguins. I've already seen the monkeys.
the South
but-
Americans are just like the North Americans, but darker.
The majority of people living out there have so much unexplored territory. The only reason you can even know what South America looks like is because of the internet or pictures or videos that you've seen.
As an American,
It's-
that's 100% true.
You're so far removed.
Guaranteed, like as a European, like you're encouraged to like travel the world. Like Europe is like, hey, go everywhere, right? Because Europe is so close to like other prominent countries that have like world stake, that it's not that crazy that you're from the United Kingdom, but the
Yeah.
United States is like the United States
So fucking
is like
big.
only child syndrome. It's like it's like Canada.
We
That's like our
don't-
cousin. We don't give a fuck about that.
Fuck Canada.
Mexico. That's like our step cousin.
Yeah, that's so true. Europe has like there's so many countries right there that you can travel to.
Germany like almost took over the world. Blew up half of your fucking city. Like America's like no one's ever even like done anything here. Like we fought, we were so lonely. We just picked a fight with ourselves. Meanwhile, we're like, let's divide Africa.
And also a small part of Mexico called Tejas, which we we were like, we need that nut sack. Like that's part of us.
Excuse me? No, this is Texas. I love how racist the border towns are too. Like the more you are towards the other people, the more racist you get.
Yeah, yeah, that's weird.
Right? Like you like, that's like we're around them all the
Except
time.
for
and we hate
Canada,
them.
dude. Canada, I feel like people from Canada are just allowed to come here. Like we just care
It's
so
really
little
annoying,
about
but we're not
them.
allowed to go there. Did you know that? Like Canada's like, hey, stop, please. Like if you have like a DUI, like they like freaking like, no. Yeah, it's really hard to get into Canada.
They're like
If you've
they're a
done anything
lot
wrong.
more liberal there though. Like weed's been cool in Canada
The
forever.
crazy thing about being hyper liberal is anytime you get towards the end of that spectrum, you become more fascist. So it's like the more liberal you get, it seems like freedom, but you can no longer have free speech. You can't say or think whatever you want to think because if it offends anybody, now you go to jail. And that's what happens when like a comedian went there and some fucking like lesbian girl came up and was like, I fucking hate your comedy or something. That's it. He's like, shut up, dyke.
No.
Like, I'm saying this right now on Twitch. Like, I guarantee you, if Twitch like cared, if I was like a real streamer and I said dyke, just even the reference of this event, they'd be like, "Hey, man, you can't do that. Like,
Can't
why?
say that.
You can't say dyke." Or like liberal over here, you can't say dyke. It's like, grab. You know what I mean? It's like insensitive.
But Canada is a place where they had like you'd hear him talk about like the weed comedy sellers, or there's like bars you can go to where there's a back room that's just filled with weed smoke.
Yeah,
Isn't that
because
in Canada?
Yeah, because they don't care as much about weed.
Just a little bit more chill.
Yeah, they were way more chill with it, but then they're over chill. Like, guess what happens if you smoke too much weed? You start getting very paranoid, right? And if you smoke too much weed, now you're paranoid about like how
What
you
gender
offend people.
you are.
Yeah, like I know when I smoke too much weed, I'm like, am I twitching too much for this guy?
Am I still male?
Yeah, like what identity am I?
I'm so high, I don't even know what gender I am.
I'm astrogender. I'm just flooding space.
Spaceballs.
Spaceballs. How dare you make fun of my astrogender? It's a real identity. My foxkin are going to eat your children alive.
I've been trying to like figure out how to approach this idea of where we were talking about the skateboarding archetype and how that's influenced somehow has been like directly attached to like cultural influence. I wonder, is that just like the archetype of the cool guy? Because like when I have the idea of like a skateboarder, like if I just say skateboarder, I have a symbol in my head of like a dude ollieing, like a silhouette of a dude ollieing or doing a kickflip. And I think like snowboarding has the same sort of
Vibe.
archetypical feel to it. And
that doesn't work for snowboarding is because you have to be rich to snowboard.
well, yeah,
you don't have
but
to be rich to skateboard.
I don't know if, well, yeah, I guess just because you have to,
More people can skateboard.
you don't have to be, you just have to be able to, you just have to be willing to climb a fucking mountain if you want to snowboard like
It's so much more ritzy.
off-road.
But you also have to get a pass for like the ski lift. And,
Yeah,
like, all that
unless
shit.
you fucking climb a mountain.
Yeah.
That's the problem with snowboarding is like you have to either pay a shit ton of money or you have to climb a fucking mountain.
It's very like there's a reason there's not like many black snowboarders.
But like surfing has the same sort of barrier. Like you just need a surfboard.
You need
and
to
then
have you need to be able to afford
close to
property
water.
next to an ocean.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Well,
All
I don't know.
snowboarders are rich
Skateboarding
fucking
has
dudes.
limitations too. Like, what if you live in fucking Africa?
There is video of people skateboarding in Africa. They make skateboards
in the sand.
Yeah,
They have
dude.
they have-
Guarantee, I fucking seen it.
What?
Like bare feet, fucking like plywood, 4 wheels doing kickflips on something that's not you wouldn't even consider a skateboard.
Their feet have just evolved to be like.
Well, it's because they have fucking phones. And they can see people skateboarding. And skateboarding is the closest representation
Dude,
they can get to art.
You know, it's the weirdest fucking thing. Have you ever? This is the weirdest fucking thing that has happened to me multiple times, where I've been followed on Instagram by somebody from Africa.
What?
I shit you not. Have you ever? Have
Like
you ever?
directly from Africa?
Like, I will go and it'll say like.
Misa Kali from
Yeah,
fucking
I can't
South
even think of-
Africa.
But I'll click on it and it'll be pictures of him like hanging out around a campfire in the Serengeti, like, and somehow he has a cell phone but doesn't have like a house with plumbing.
Yeah. Yeah, he can afford internet,
How-
but he can't afford
And
fucking
I'm
clean
so
water.
curious to know why and how he found me and decided I was worth following. Like, apparently, it's so fascinating to know that, like, these fucking people in Africa who are not even sure where they're gonna get their food
Or like, yeah, let me follow this
are like,
guy in America.
I'm gonna. It almost seems like.
I bet any American seems like a celebrity.
Is there a bot out there who's pretending to be
Probably.
a third world African child
No, well,
and wants to, like, what's happening there? That's just how connected the internet has become.
well,
I
the
guess.
internet is used a lot differently in different countries. So in America,
Have you ever seen the African Batman?
What?
There's like, I don't know where I've seen this, but if you go on YouTube, like, these fucking legitimate, I can't think of like the right thing to say without sounding really fucking racist. But there's like straight up like tribal people in Africa who redid Batman. And it's-
the movie?
like they have CG, like 1990s CGI of like explosions, and they have like somehow they've managed to get like a Batman costume and like over into the fucking desert, and they've redone like a Batman movie. It's not like a full thing, you know. I don't know.
Because they got eaten by lions before they could finish it. Yeah.
Like they went a little bit too realistic with the stunt moves. They got a real lion instead of a CGI
Oops.
lion.
Oops.
So
We thought we could handle him.
Batman
But he
actually
was too strong.
Batman This is the Batman where he dies
This is
by a lion
the death
attack.
of Batman in Africa.
It's the weirdest fucking thing, though, dude. Multiple times, on multiple occasions, I've been followed.
Different movie?
Well, I've like
Is there
on
multiple
Instagram,
African
I've been
Batmans?
followed by someone. Like, you know, you get followed by like some dude. You ever like someone follows you that's from Czechoslovakia or
It's
some
only
shit?
like Instagram hoes that aren't like fake profiles. Like, I show you my pussy and I marry you. Here's one picture. And it's like, no thanks.
I don't know. I'm always getting followed by these fucking.
Well, you might have
People
like real
across the
fans and
world.
now you're just shitting on them.
It's weird.
You fucking dumb poor bitch. Why are you following me?
Like, there's people in Africa listening to my podcast, and I have no idea who they are or why.
They're like gathered around their only radio. They spent 3 months saving for, and they're like,
They
we can't wait to hear Zephyr
built their
talk to
own
us.
radio. They built their.
It's like sticks and stones. They've like come up with a new form of technology to receive radio signals.
Oh, it's just crazy how connected it.
My
like,
mother
the
gave her
internet
life for
is.
this. Remember, I can't do that. So here's the way you don't be racist: is that if you do the wrong accent for the people that you're trying to do the accent for. My mother gave her life for this. That's my South African accent. My mother gave her life to build this radio for you, and now you talk like you don't care about us. We're not the bots. We're real people with real emotions. We really took lots of time to come together with the sticks and stones and the dirt. Some of us had to pee into the sand just to make mud, to put it together to conduct the electricity for the radio signal.
Supposed to be less racist?
It's very less racist because it sounds European. You can just do every accent is a Viking accent.
Sounds like
now.
a slow European. Like
Every accent is fine if you do it like this.
It's like the European guy that got left behind.
It's the guy who is still trying to build said boat that takes from place to place. You build a boat, it float across water. That's the guy I am. I'm the boat builder guy. I'm the guy who builds the boat that takes you from here to there. What else do you want from me?
Some real
I didn't study the Queen's English, as so they say.
Oh no.
I don't speak proper, I guess, if that's what you say. Too busy building boats to get out of the way of the Vikings. You know how hard it is to escape a Viking attack? You know how hard it is to dig up your whole fucking dumb family? Take all of your crops and your mules, and you know how hard it is to get a cow on a boat? I don't even know where the fuck I'm going half the time. It's blue. Everywhere is blue. It's fucking that way or that way. I don't know. Where's the land? I got to look at lights in the sky to determine where
That
the...
shit's wild, dude. Those fucking Africans figured that out, dude. They saw.
Yes, we come from Africa.
You see,
There's no
birds
help of
flying.
aliens at all telling us where to build the pyramids. The aliens definitely did not come down from the outer space into the middle of Africa to tell us where the pyramids should be built.
Oh fuck! I feel like we're mixing up a lot of things right now.
Yeah. Well, Egypt's in Africa, right?
This is just a smorgasbord of racism.
It's a charcuterie of racism.
Yeah.
Would you like some grapes with your fucking stinky cheese?
You're enhancing my racism palette right now.
I am ushering in the next
is
era
an-
of like
This is
like
an acquired taste of
yeah,
racism.
it's like the ability. It's like racism transcendent,
yeah.
right? It's like
You've,
you can be racist if you just sound white,
you
like really
filled
white.
the archetype of racism and then moved into the unknown. That's what's happening right now.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just trying to build pyramids without the help of aliens. Cut perfect limestone without the help of advanced technology. I don't know. Maybe I could do it.
Maybe I could do it.
Maybe I could just get the few leaves from the fucking water and like slice day to day. Create really smooth line. It's honest work, you say. Build lots
I
of...
wonder how fucked up those people were. Like in Egypt, they must have had alcohol by then, right?
Well, apparently the slaves were not like treated like slaves.
Oh well,
Apparently they were like treated like really well. They like fed really well and like they had
I
like,
didn't even think about
proper
this,
housing.
but
and
for a long time,
they were actually workers. They weren't slaves.
for like is that true?
Yeah.
I thought Egypt was
rules were a
all
little bit.
slaves.
It's a little hard to understand the societal context of a slave back then. But like, the terminology of a slave in Egypt, as far as I understand, from what I've heard, is they were paid to do their job, and on top of being paid, they were giving like basically like the people who built the pyramids were specialized workers. And they were also,
Yeah.
on top of being specialized workers, their basic needs were taken care of. They were given homes. They were given food. And they were paid on top of that to contribute back to the society of Egypt. They were essentially treated 100 times better than people are treated today to build cars.
But the
to build
real
airplanes.
question is, did they have alcohol in the
Yeah,
Egyptian
100%.
days?
And you know why that's true? It's because water was dirty. They had to have alcohol.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like I didn't realize. I think it was like during the medieval period, like water was just so fucked up. Pretty much for most of history, I'm assuming water was just so dirty that
Yeah,
you had to drink.
If there was
alcohol.
a dead body in the river, people would just start dying because of the sepsis.
It's weird to think that like would humanity even be what it is without alcohol? Like if water was so fucked up,
Well, humans fuck
if
themselves.
water has always been
It's
so
not. It's
fucked
not that
up
water is that. It's not that water is that fucked up. It's
because
that
of like overpopulation.
No, humans remove themselves. So this is what happened. There's a reason chimps can still live in the jungle and drink that fucking water and be fine. Like all those parasites around them, they're fine, right? There's very few things that are causing like chimps still have diseases like in the rainforest and stuff, and they're still parasites, but they have very good immune systems towards the majority of those things.
Yeah.
People create technologies that remove themselves from their initial environment. They created what you would consider artificial environments. I don't like using the word artificial because it's not fair to the identity of reality, right? Like it's still a real thing. Like you don't call like an anthill an artificial creation. It's a natural part of that creature's design. But nonetheless, so these chimps created a natural feature of their design. It just so happens that natural feature removed itself from the necessity of gaining immunity to certain functions in the environment. So as you remove yourself from that environment, and you can boil water, you create fire where you boil these things. Our intestines shrunk. Our literal guts got smaller, and our postures changed, and our skin became less dense, and our brains became bigger, and the function of all of those like things dictates the way we are now, and that's why we're so susceptible to things outside of the environment. Is because we're no longer directly in relation to the environment. So chimps can still drink dirty water and be fine because their intestines is a lot longer. It filters it out better. We drink dirty water. People in Mexico can drink Mexican tap water because they grew up with it. And this is how that's not even generational. Like I mean, it's like uni-generational. It's like one generation removed, and you can no longer drink water from a different part of the environment.
Like genetically, like if you that's a weird thing to think about. If you just gave your baby water from
like Africa, it
like
might
the
die.
the river.
Yeah.
But if it survives its childhood, it's probably gonna be like
Pretty susceptible.
super immune, I would think, or super like its immune response.
Well, here's the thing about babies: is it's not that
phenomenal.
you can't think of it as like a blank slate. Like the baby is the genetics of its immunity are determined by its parents. So the fitness of the parents, if the dad's like super fit and buff and like really robust to disorders, and so is the mom, then it has a higher chance of having an immunity built towards that particular stream. So this is why, like, I mean, if you really think about it, it makes a lot of sense. If there's two fucking monkeys and those monkeys fucking, they make a baby and they live next to this stream where they hunt and feed all the time. This is their stream. This is where they create their life, and they're used to the ecosystem of that stream, that initial environment. The mother's genetics are going to their epigenetics are going to basically accommodate towards that particular immediate environment. And then the baby that they have is going to be hyper fit for that environment. When you have an environment where you're only eating McDonald's, you're telling your baby's genetics that's the food that it's going to have to survive on. And that's why we have these fucked up, dumb, retarded kids being born.
It's McDonald's.
That's why the
All your
most
fault.
yeah, we have fucking retarded McDonald's babies walking around. Because we've decided that the brain only needs excessive amounts of sugar and fat.
I wonder if babies are ever born obese. I wonder if there's a baby that just comes out like just
fat as
just
fuck.
fat as fuck. Just like right off the bat is not
like
gonna
Jabba the
have
Hutt.
a good life.
Jabba the Hutt baby, just like blah, 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 blah.
He's like born with severe diabetes.
Born with insulin problems.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably
That's what type 1 diabetes
yeah,
is.
right.
Yeah. And you're just born with fucked up.
But are you just like, I just want to, yeah, if you're just shot out a blob, just a, like its feet are fat, has just fat feet. That's like the last part of your body that gets fat is your feet.
Just like
Your
thick,
feet and your
fucking
hands.
fat, just sausage finger. That's like so disgusting when someone goes to like reach for your hand and it's just like a fucking blimp. That's like a Goodyear blimp. Like, are you selling me tires, bro? The fuck is this? Is this like a
Trying to shake your
NASCAR
hand.
advertisement? What is happening? Are you a mob member? What is going on? Fucking Goodyear fingers. Bro,
What were we talking
Goodyear tattooed on your hand is hilarious. Especially if you're a fat dude and you're just like blimp hands all around. You're just floating through society.
just on your hover round.
Heisenberg is literally written on your fucking knuckles.
It's Heisenberg.
That blimp. Like Led Zeppelin is named after the Heisenberg incident. Where
I
like
don't know what that
so,
is.
so guess what? Blimps during the 70s were more popular than planes. And so blimps were taking people to so air travel,
You take a blimp like across the country.
you take a blimp across the state. You take it to see it's like a hot air balloon essentially. So you take it to see
It
the
must be the
environment.
slowest fucking ride ever.
But like you gotta understand that planes weren't that good yet. Planes were like very like ritzy things. Like not everybody could afford getting on a plane and going somewhere. So a blimp was like the bus of planes. Like you would be able to get from place to place in the city, and it was supposed to be like the future of air travel because it was so inexpensive. And then the Heisenberg incident happened because these blimps were filled with helium, and someone lit a fucking cigarette on the blimp, and it had a leak, and the entire thing went up in flames. And there's
shit.
video footage of it, and that's why Led Zeppelin is called Led Zeppelin, because they used to be called Zeppelins.
Right.
That's what blimps were called, were Zeppelins. And so Led Zeppelin is like the fucking like kitschy way of saying it's a sinking blimp.
That's
Led
fucking
Zeppelin.
cool.
Yeah. And that's and like the whole world would have been, it's like steampunk almost. Like the world was almost a steampunk reality.
Could you imagine?
That's
if,
why
like,
steampunk is so popular.
If the blimp was like the most advanced, if we never evolved beyond blimps, you imagine like
Just
taking
like balloon people.
taking a blimp to California would take like 12 hours.
Society would be way more chill. We wouldn't be as like fucking uptight as we are. We'd be like, I'm on a blimp.
I think that'd be honestly pretty cool though.
We'd be like, what are you doing? Blimping.
I'm just blimping, bro.
I'm just blimping, bro. It's like, that's pretty cool, bro. I wish I was on a blimp right now, right? We just floating around on blimps.
We need to bring back hot air balloons. dude.
Fucking jets ruined the world because now like everyone has to be on coke. Like jets are because of cocaine.
Yeah, for
People are like, we need to get there now. Blimps are like, we can just fucking float through the air.
We're
It's
good
fine.
up here, you know.
We're just
Like, there's plenty of alcohol.
like the sound.
Just don't light any cigarettes.
Yeah, just don't smoke right
Just,
now,
just
please.
no smoking.
And
That's why blimps didn't take off, dude. You can smoke weed on a blimp.
Mhm.
That's the thing.
It's like, this is the best place to smoke weed, and it's like, don't do that though.
don't do that.
Wait, have you heard of Led Zeppelin? And then meanwhile, people. This is why the '80s started, is because of cocaine and jets. People are like, let's go faster now. And then, just like you go so fast on a jet, and you can get like. You can answer email. The fact that you're going 1,000 miles an hour and you can answer an email is fucking so stupid. Like, could you imagine? Like, this is what monkeys do. Like, could you imagine if you saw a monkey create a rocket, and then on top of that rocket, it like typed to its friend, like, "Hey man, you should like take out the trash or something tomorrow." Like as it's just going through, like, "Hey bro, don't forget to take out the trash." Across the fucking globe.
Don't
That's
forget
what we
to feed
did.
the cats.
Hey man, Tabitha needs her fucking titty milk, or otherwise she's not going to.
Oh, so I was reading Food of the Gods recently by Terrence McKenna.
Yeah. What do the gods eat, by the way?
And mushrooms only.
Is that what food of the gods mean? Is mushrooms? Is that what he's talking about?
I think so,
Why
yeah.
is it called food of the gods?
I don't actually know. That's a great question.
What do the gods eat?
Mushrooms.
What are they eating? I
I'm
want to know.
I think it's a reference to mushrooms. But what's
Okay.
weird about the book is that a significant amount of it is focused around the idea that like the government made the drugs of that decade. Like heroin, you know, like the opium wars, heroin was like
Percocet, bro.
it was pushed by the government for
teething children.
generations.
Oh yeah, it was like the
And-
first thing. It was like it was literally what people would give babies to stop them from teething.
Oh shit.
There's like a
that's
whole
right.
company. Like I don't remember what they were called, but like
They made laudanum.
yeah,
It's like alcohol
and heroin.
infused opium.
Yeah.
But the government had their hands in this the whole time. That's what the opium wars is all about. Was like
And they were like, hey, China, like especially
UK
Europe.
forcing
Europe
China to
went over to China. I was like, hey, dude, stop making opium. That's our thing. And then China was like, what? Like, yeah, fuck you. We make opium. That was like a huge thing. That's why Europe owns Bangkok. That was like a huge part of just owning Bangkok.
But the same
I mean, no.
I think the same thing applies to like the 80s.
I
I don't remember exactly what the reason was, but like the CIA or whoever it was,
That's a bit different in the 80s.
The government's been running like drug cartels
Yes.
since the government essentially created drug cartels because they didn't want to be the front man for like getting your fix. So they pushed it all underground, and because like heroin for whatever reason wasn't conducive to what they were trying to accomplish, they like somehow changed the paradigm and made like there's this story about how heroin was like during the time when heroin was like super popular, the CIA or whoever it was made like this really fucking pure heroin, and distributed it into all the ghettos in America during like a very prominent political era where they didn't want them to be able to participate, so they just gave them like the best fucking heroines.
So they would
to,
just
like,
kind of like chill out.
just to
and, like,
keep
not
them out
care.
of the situation.
Yeah.
And like that's essentially the government's had their hands in like the distribution of drugs,
What is the
coffee,
government?
sugar.
Right? So think about
Well,
that. What are you
it
saying?
extends beyond. That.
Why is it companies? Every time we talk about the government and their hands in things, it always comes down to particular goods that the government is producing. And those particular goods that the government is producing is always resided in the companies that the government is supporting or subsidizing. And so the majority of political corruption comes quite literally from the institutions that the government helps support. And it's like that's why we have banks that are too big to fail. Too big to fail laws are because we have pumped too much money into something for it to fail. And also, there is a slight wink and a nod, like we don't care if you fuck over the people. We want to maintain military dominance over the resources on the planet. The people have nothing to do with military dominance and resources on the planet. But
Most of them don't give a
companies
fuck.
and competitive nature of companies and progression do. So that's why we have military budgets, and that's why we have black budget programs, and that's why we have all these secretive ops programs to basically keep the people fighting with each other about nonsensical issues that don't fucking matter, that don't actually have any say. The whole fucking political system in the US is a giant play to keep people distracted and basically maladaptive towards the true budgetary spendings of the elite in the planet, which are these particular resource wells that people have power over. And the only way you have power over particular resource wells on the planet, these global systems, is if you have big fucking militaries that have big nuclear weapons. And so we're all fighting over who gets the fundamental resources that advance technology, that make us closer to AI faster than the other person. And then meanwhile, there's all of these working forces. This is what the government does. We have the working class. And then we have the middle class, which is like the worst part of the working. The working class gets to be upset about where they are. They get to fucking hate it. The middle class is so ambivalent towards the hate because they get to ride jet skis during the day. They get to go on their yacht occasionally.
Isn't the middle class synonymous with the working class?
It's getting closer because the wealth disparity. But in like the 80s, the middle class was like fucking rich. Like if you were middle class, you could go to college, you could do this, you could ride jet skis, you get to have the experience of America.
Right.
If you're rich, you get to control the experience of America. And if you're hyper rich, you get to dictate the future experience of America. You get to dictate the experience of not just the leading power in the world, but the other parts of the world. You get to dictate the direction that the world goes in. Wealth has always been the ability to dictate the narrative of the game that the planet is playing in.
That's pretty fucked up. There's
And
a
it's an
very
artificial
small
creation.
amount of people with a very large amount of that influence.
Exactly. And the only reason they have that influence is because we buy into their narrative.
I don't know if that's necessarily true, though. Like, I mean, if the part of it comes from the fact that they are, like, portraying the narrative they want you to buy into.
Religion.
But that
is a
also
part of the
has to,
narrative.
like, coincide with a personal desire.
An army is very persuasive. So we let's not underestimate the genetic influence of being suppressed by military force. You think that it's crazy that within one generation that you can't drink out of a well. Imagine what can happen if a military force suppresses your generation. You grow up in the context of like a caste system. That has dramatic psychological consequences for many generations to come. You have it's narrative is very, very important because one, what does it mean to be human? Right? Fundamentally, we're still just apes. We still have to eat, we still have to fuck to procreate. We have to hunt, we have to do all these things for ourselves to survive. But the evolutionary powers that be have created narratives in which those things have become simpler and simpler to do. We've become farther and farther removed to the extent where now you have to get a license to eat things. Everything that that you do to generate survival of as yourself has to be legally carried out through some form of legislation that you were born into as an agreement, as a part of that society to keep you safe. So you can no longer just go hunt things. You need a fucking license to go kill a deer. You can't just do that. You can't just grow a garden that's large enough to feed your family. You need to buy a plot of land and pay taxes on that. The things that are fundamental to the survival of people have been co-opted by the narrative of powerful people generations prior to you. And you have accepted them as reality and fact. This is the current state that you have to survive in. You can no longer just go out and eat for yourself without, this is why it's called living off the grid.
Right.
If you want to go do that, you have to literally defy laws and put yourself in a situation where you can be persecuted
For being human.
for fulfilling your natural needs for survival. And on top of that, just eating and living alone is no longer societally, contextually enough to even get a mate in society. To be a prominent figure in society, you must now have a particular type of job. You must have a particular type of wealth. You must have a particular type of identity within your society, a particular type of narrative that fits into the context of the larger narrative that promotes the well-being of your offspring. That's how you become desirable. If you don't want to have children, that's fine, but you're probably not going to fuck that many people. So our entire biology has been co-opted and corrupted by elite forces and narratives over time. It's not even a conscious thing anymore. It's a progressive part of evolution, moving in and taking over real estate that can be easily taken over. It's a part of a chess game. It's easy to corrupt things for the benefit of the game itself. But unfortunately, evolution is blind. It will find out in time that that's not a competitive strategy if we annihilate ourselves. We've changed the climate of the planet because of our narrative, our generational narratives that we've told ourselves through religion and technology. And really the only thing that can save us are the very things that are destroying us. And it's literally the momentum of the technology and the narrative being pushed in towards the proper direction with enough awareness of our situation. But we fucked ourselves so much that the people who are in charge of those things have no awareness of the situation. There is no urgency in the situation. Elon and Jeff Bezos have no urgency to save people. It's too myopic. Their views are too myopic. Getting to Mars, yeah, that's good for the future of humanity. There's things you can do here now with your wealth alone. You could, for a year, feed everyone on the planet. There's enough money to go around. Why do we not do that? When the science shows that cooperation and unifying our efforts together can promote an even healthier planet and society. Why do we not do that? Because we've never thought about it before. We've never had the contextual awareness to do it.
I wonder if evolution is flawed then.
It's not that it's flawed. It's that there's a state and there's a state now and there's a state after. And if that state doesn't work, evolution doesn't care if people survive. That's the flawed part. The human cognition is thinking that we're special.
Right.
Evolution doesn't give a fuck. There will be another thing there's amoeboids that can live forever. That's all that evolution cares about, is that genes pass on. And it's just a program that says, hey, make more. Hey, make more. And then when hey, make
This
more
is
doesn't
good.
execute,
Do
you
that.
can't do that. Right? It's literally a program statement. Like, when you say, do this thing, and do this thing doesn't execute, then that thing just won't happen. So you say do this thing in a variety of different ways, and eventually one of those things is allowed to continue inside the program. It's an execute statement. That's all evolution is an execute statement. If you look at programming, it's an execute statement. Do this thing, do this thing, do this thing, repeatedly, 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 until one of those variations of the execute statement is allowed to continue into the next state. And then it does it over again. Does this thing continue? Does this thing continue? Does this thing continue? That's all evolution is doing, is saying continue, 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 based on the variation of the state of the current system. It doesn't give a fuck about your thoughts, your feelings, or your identity. It has nothing to do with that. Although your thoughts, your feelings, and your identity may promote the next state, it doesn't give a fuck if that's what happened. The only thing it gives a fuck about is the next state. And even if the next state doesn't happen, it didn't care. Evolution doesn't care if it actually continues. It just continues or does not. This is where biology is so fucking stupid, right? The idea that things have a desire to continue doesn't matter. It matters to some extent that when they become self-aware, that desire promotes sort of like an observation of the reality around them to manipulate it to continue, right? But that just randomly happened. If there was some mutation, so if there was an ant that was very self-aware of its environment, very intelligent, could build machines like we build machines, and there's an ant that's just like a normal ant, but let's say the ant that was intelligent had a mutation that it couldn't reproduce. Evolution doesn't give a fuck how intelligent that ant was, how aware it was. The ant that can reproduce will reproduce. The strategy doesn't matter. The reproduction is the only thing that happens to the next state. You know what I'm saying? There is no thought behind it. It is absence of consciousness. Consciousness is not evolution. Evolution is intelligence. And intelligence is just the pattern of something moving to the next cycle. Consciousness is just the observation of the cycle. And that's all we are.
I guess I always pictured like this weird idea, this idea that I've come to as sort of like a conclusion that I occasionally become like skeptical of myself, is that evolution has been like co-opted by humanity. Like evolution in like human times, it was very slow moving in terms of what we think now. Like taking millions of years to evolve to the next stage is just like, it takes too much time, so we made it better. And we've sort of like co-opted the idea of evolution to where we can like repeat those things without having to like experience multiple generations. Like, you can run 1 million experiments within a year. We've now reduced the process of evolution.
Exponentially increased the process of evolution.
Right.
Yeah.
But then within that, like if evolution as a whole decides that self-awareness is not the right way to go, or if self-awareness like itself realizes it's like inefficiency, then we're gonna cut ourselves out of the equation.
It's not even about efficiency. That's the problem with it. It's the human thought behind it is literally the problem of the biologist trying to understand the system. Is it's too interwoven. It's just like the Matchbox thing. If something happens after the thing that happened, that's the thing that happened. There is no deeper meaning to it. There's a state, and there's a state after. The state after is just evolution. There is no, like, rhyme or... It literally... The only reason that we think there's any meaning to evolution, or we see any pattern in evolution at all, is because we have this conscious identity of observance of the things that are happening. And for whatever reason, evolutionarily, the pattern recognition of things help promote our species further on, right? That was a beneficial quality within our own microcosm of understanding. But it's just like when you ask the question of morality in the universe. There's no morality in the universe. It's subjective. The idea that we're here because we cared about things or that we were self-referential doesn't actually mean anything. There's 100 billion infinite iterations of this where we didn't give a fuck about any of this shit and we're still here doing the same thing. Mathematically, you can prove that. We're just an iteration of a cycle of a state that happened after a state. There's point A and now there's point B. And we're just the infinite loop of that. And we're the infinite loop of that of all possibilities happening. It doesn't matter how we got here. We try to explain it to ourselves through these stories that we manifest to create some sort of meaning out of the chaos that is the universe.
I wonder if we're in, like, the dick joke reality.
We could be. It doesn't even fucking matter. Like, there's an infinite number of dick joke realities, though. So how insignificant are you to be in the infinite number? Like, what if you are a dick joke reality?
It'd be kind of cool.
But
it would take a lot of the pressure off.
Right?
If the whole point of our reality was to, like, recognize that all of North America should unify into come, that'd be great.
Well, here's the problem with that. If we want to really get deep on it, right? Is I think we have an intrinsic qualia of being just human to think that there has to be a meaning towards things. Whereas if you were the AI Matchbox experiment where you're just a bunch of beads that either get taken or not taken out, you know what I mean? A dick joke has no meaning. It's not relevant. A dick joke is just a bead in the set. It just so happens that in that universe, dick jokes keep winning the game.
Yeah, I don't know. It almost seems like it seems
where is the pressure? So my question really is like, what is the pressure if you weren't a dick joke reality? What are you supposed to achieve if this wasn't just a big fucking joke?
I don't know. I feel like if fuck.
That's what I'm trying to get at. Is like, what is the purpose if this isn't a big fucking joke? If this is either a big fucking joke or it's not, and it's like a learning ceremony. It's like a thing that we have to go through to do something greater, more important. And that's what all of our archetypical narrative TV shows us all the time is like, there's some deeper meaning to this.
Right.
All of art is like, there's some deeper meaning.
What if that
it's
is like the evolutionary mutation that
helped us get to where we are.
Or it didn't. Maybe that's like what causes our
Is us a
downfall.
downfall?
Is
Yeah.
that we like
How interesting is that?
that we
shit?
think that there's like meaning in the universe, and that's what inevitably
kills
like
us.
it worked. It worked
That's
for
so
a
funny.
pretty long time. Like we were like, oh yeah, we're
It did-
moving somewhere.
It's just like you were talking about when we came into my apartment, like how certain amounts of drugs have different influences over the body.
Yeah.
There's a certain amounts of like self-awareness that actually helped us survive, but like we became
We got a
too
little
self-aware
bit
that it
too
just like
much.
annihilates. We crushed in on ourselves.
Fuck. Well, yeah. I wonder if we're like the first. If we're like Mach 1 of self-aware creatures.
Who cares if we're the first? What does that even mean?
It would be
I'd-
so cool to know that like dolphins actually for a hot minute they were like building little like Atlantis was like a little dolphin reserve. They were just
Like fucking
hanging out, having like dolphin orgies.
Did you know dolphins rape the fuck out of other dolphins?
I wonder if dolphins have orgies.
They do. You know, like a female dolphin vagina vibrates. You know it does that. It vibrates like a fucking like fleshlight. Like
They just masturbate on command.
yeah, it goes like yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. If a female dolphin could just jerk itself off
Well, no.
instantaneously?
Well, maybe, but like it's like the dolphin penis goes in, and it basically massages the dolphin penis
Yeah.
into coming into that. Like dolphins have sex for pleasure; they don't just have sex for procreation.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Like
That's why their vaginas
if a
vibrate.
female dolphin could just vibrate itself and just come and not need a penis. A dolphin penis.
Yeah, but there's more externality to it, so that's why they're more sentient than we think they are. I think dolphin women like the masculine penis being in there plus the vibration. So like,
Right.
yeah, you could just vibrate by
they
yourself.
need full
But
stimulation.
it's not even just like it's full stimulation. It's like, yeah, you can masturbate by yourself, but isn't it much better to share that experience with another dolphin?
You want to see what my vagina does?
Exactly.
I got-
Exactly. Like under the ocean, like whales are like.
That's what that
Did you
sound
know-
really
did-
means.
Did you know a whale, like, talking to another whale could kill a human? Like,
Just by like the
Ju-
sheer sound energy.
the sheer vibration of the waves, like the compression of the waves
Yeah.
under the water, would explode a human's brain.
Whoa.
Like,
Why
so-
have we been experimenting with this?
Probably.
I want to
So-
see it. What if whales
you know what's
are
even
like the
fucking
next like
crazier?
warfare technology?
Well, dolphins used to find
Harnessing
bombs. Did
whale
you know
powers?
That? Dolphins used to find bombs.
Like for humans or just
World War II, they would train dolphins to find bombs next to submarines.
what the fuck?
Yeah, and the dolphins would be like, hey, there's a fucking bomb here. Just like dogs find bombs on like planes, dolphins were
Right.
like just the same thing. But like, you know what's even crazier? So whales can they can emit a frequency so devastating under the ocean that it's so much pressure that it would blow up a human's fucking brain. But when humans are next to them, they never admit it.
They never admit it
Yeah, they don't do it.
because they know better.
Like they know, but yeah, they're like, hey,
They're just
there's
like-
a thing over here. I can't do that.
I don't want to be mean.
Yeah, I'm not trying to kill this fucking thing over here.
Damn.
And then we're like, stab. We get like a harpoon. And it's like,
We don't even want the meat. We just want to make candles out of a fucking.
we're gonna write a book.
We just toss 80% of the whale aside and just take its fat and
Yeah.
use it for gum. Isn't that what they made gum out
There's
of?
just some
Whale
horny chick trying to fucking stuff its dick in its pussy.
fat?
There's like a whole industry for like giant pussy girls.
Oh shit.
I need this whale dick, this 10-foot whale dick. Could you imagine a girl who's like, I don't want you unless your dick's 10 feet tall.
They're out there, dude.
I don't want you unless your dick has a giant 10-foot.
Those girls are
Fucking
those girls
bone
are
in
out
it.
there and they're on the hunt.
Could you imagine if your dick had an actual bone in it? That's what whale dicks have. They have literal whale.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
They're just always hard.
I think they get harder, but it does keep it kind of like stiff.
They just always remain.
They're always half chub. Yeah. That's why they're always like.
That's why.
That's why they make that sound. They're like.
That's why the fucking whales didn't build technology, dude. That's why whales don't have internet.
They're too focused on coming all the time. They can't even focus to like. The only reason whales haven't invented internet is because they don't have fingers. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, how are you supposed to invent internet when you have fucking fins?
They have like the blueprints all mapped out.
Yeah, they're like.
We need somebody
like communicating space travel and like, and they're like, hey, this is what's behind a black hole. There's another
String
side.
theory is short-sighted.
Meanwhile, people are like, humans are like their brains are just string theory.
That's what's actually happening. Is they just the
That's
sound.
why Stephen Hawking was in a wheelchair. It wasn't ALS. He just like
He was
intercepted a
talking
whale
to
transmission.
whales. He was talking to.
Or like blew up his fucking like brain. He's just like, ding 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 ding. He's like
I've
taking
received
credit.
the message, but
He's taking credit for all the whales. There's like some fucking douchebag who's taking credit for the whales' ideas. He's like, they're on to something. No. And the whale's like, you're not ready, and they like blew up his brain. But they articulated it so it was only like his muscles. They didn't want to fuck him too much. Because they're like, you know, Stephen Hawking was like a total slut.
I bet.
Isn't that awesome?
That's
Like, good for him.
The only part of his body that actually works is his
His
cock.
dick. He's just constantly hard. Like, you might have ALS, but your dick is just stiff as fuck all the time.
They're ready to go.
You're just
No refractory period. It's the only muscle in his body that works.
he's just so zen because he's fucking all the time. That's why he can think about the universe. It's because his balls are constantly drained. He has no primate thoughts. He's just constantly like losing cum. He's like cum deficient, and so he can like think about like string theory and shit. He's like, I've seen the edge of a black hole. I was like, how? It's like, I don't have any cum. I'm like, what? It's like, think about it. If I don't have any cum, I have a lot of more time to think about other things.
That's probably the main reason why humans are only as far as we are. All the people in power don't come enough. Could you think Trump like gets off as much as he wants to, or are his ideas half baked because he's also like really hoping that he can grab a pussy?
I think he is tired of grabbing pussy.
You think Trump got too much puss?
Yeah, I think like elite power is something that happens when you get too much pussy. Like, I mean, imagine thinking about this. If you go watch a bunch of bonobos, and you look at the bonobo that fucks the most bonobos, that's a chill ass bonobo.
Yeah.
That's a bonobo that has no time for nothing. And then you add existential dread on that bonobo. That bonobo's gonna start doing other shit. That
Right.
bonobo's like, I want to be president. Why? I don't know. I just need to do something.
I don't know, but I've already come 40 times today.
Yeah, there's nothing else to do. What do you want me to fucking do? Like the people who don't come are the people who are like, I want to do anything just to come. And then the people who do come are like, I want to do anything to stop coming. I want to do anything like other than coming, please. Like I don't have any more come. I need to do something else. Our only fucking objective is to just fucking come in things.
You always hear about like super rich bank CEO executives that like
Get shit on.
They can't fuck because they're just too powerful. They don't know how to interact with people because they've just spent their whole lives becoming.
Yeah, they're like, hey, instead of me
thing.
like fucking you, how about you just shit in my mouth? Make
That's
me
the-
feel
That's
powerless.
The weirdest thing ever.
Hey, I just want to feel powerless for fucking 30 seconds. Can you just shit like diarrhea in my throat? I just want a hot load of logs going straight down my throat canal. I want the log ride in my throat hole. Let's go. Thoracic fucking shits. Let's go.
Yeah, I wonder if like poor people are into shit fetish, or if they're just not.
It's the same end of the spectrum. They're so powerless, like why not? There's nothing else left.
Oh yeah.
It's the middle class people that like if you see a middle class guy who's into like a shit fetish, he's also killing people.
He's also killing people.
He has to be. There's no a middle class guy who has access to enough wealth and like enough prosperity in his life to not be as worried as like the most powerful in the world, and also not be as worried as the most poor in the world.
But
like some
for
guy who
some
can like
reason he
literally
likes
just chill.
poo in his mouth.
And he's like, yeah, it's like when they fucking diarrhea in my throat. Has bodies in the basement, bro.
Interesting.
That's mental disorder. But on the other end of the spectrum, it's not mental disorder. It's coping mechanism.
It's just how you get by.
Yeah, how else do you get by? Like if you play Grand Theft Auto and you have all the money, like, and like there's an option on your screen that says let this hooker take a shit in your mouth. Like you're not gonna press B.
Yeah, you definitely got.
You press B all day.
Yeah.
You tell your friends that you press
find
B.
cheat codes for.
Yeah. You get 700 hookers to do that at the same time. You want to see how much B you can get. How many times can you press B in a row, you know? That's how boring it would be to be rich. Like that rich. Like you just get away with anything
Yeah, dude.
because you have an entire army to defend whatever you care about.
I wonder.
How paranoid
yeah.
would you be to go to sleep though? Like you have so much money, and like someone knows if like your wife knows like if she kills you, she gets half of all of the wealth in the
She'd
world.
probably just get all of it, right?
Well, yeah, right. Like any moment, she's like, I could just divorce you and be my own person and be rich as fuck. And then on top of that, by the way, that happened already. The richest woman in the world became the richest woman in the world because she divorced the richest man in the world. It wasn't on her own merit. Isn't that fucking insane?
It's pretty sad.
It's super sad. It just shows you how much we are still monkeys, you know? And pretty soon that won't matter, though, because we'll have infinite resources. We're already
That's a
taking
weird thing
drones
to think
into
about.
space.
Like,
Yeah, what happens when you don't need to eat or sleep?
If
Or fuck?
Essentially, if being rich is like the closest equivalent to being able to instantaneously access whatever part of reality that you want to. Like once that technology becomes, or once that opportunity becomes universal, like what do we even come to? If anybody in the world can do anything they want to, like what does that lead to?
It depends on like what do we even define as a necessity anymore, right? So it's like it's very clear what happens, at least in my perspective, if they still have basic biological needs, right? They take each need to the very extreme until they're dead, or until they regret it and don't care to do it anymore, right? Now, let's say you advance to a point where you have enough wealth to ensure that you live forever, and you never need to eat, and you never need to sleep, and if you like, there's no need to have sex. There's not even a desire to have sex.
Yeah.
You're just existing. It's like Minecraft when you it's like Minecraft in creative mode. Like you're just like floating around. You can put blocks anywhere you want.
It's almost like you're destined to, like, once you reach that point, there's nothing else to do except destroy everything and start over.
Not
like,
true.
What do you do when you've done everything besides?
It's everything in terms of a human perspective. But we only have the planet as a referential point. So, if you can live forever, weird things can happen in infinity. Things that are unimaginable happen in eons that are infinite. And I think in eons that are infinite and strange, infinitely strange, there are deaths and rebirths that are not what we understand as deaths and rebirths.
Right.
There are identities and forms that are taken, in which we cannot even begin to comprehend as identities or forms. This is what I think about sometimes, is if you can live forever, like the moment your identity is eternal, guaranteed, like there's no death. The moment your identity is eternal, time becomes immediately irrelevant. There is no time.
Yeah.
Eternity is all that there is. And eternity is a stale, stagnant, instant moment. All of things happen cyclically. And you will be aware of all cyclical actions immediately. Because even though the moment you become eternal seems instantaneous towards the moment you were non-immortal, that moment after, like the moment of eternity that you experience, like past when you became immortal, is already in eternity. Like so much grander the entire life that you would have lived as a mortal entity. That any time past that instantaneous moment would blend together in your memory. And you would be in almost, it would be like a snapshot of all of time and space happening immediately before you. Fully comprehensive too. Not like, it'd be like a Where's Waldo photo. Like you'd be able to see all of the things happening at once and be fully comprehensive of it. and there would be no escape from that. That's what eternity is.
Except to enter back into an immortal form and
Until
experience lack of eternity.
until eons become stranger than they appear. So I think it's like the Necronomicon says that when in strange eons even death may die. And now that's a quote that's far beyond its time.
Yeah, that sounds.
In strange eons even death may die. So what that's alluding to is that there's a state beyond death that's so eternal that death becomes irrelevant. This is what the Buddhists talk about when you exit the cyclical cycle of life.
Right.
So there's a moment where you reach like so in the Hindu philosophy or whatever, you're like this, like you start as like a caste system. You start as nothing. And then as you promote yourself through the caste system, through each life, you become a god eventually. You become in the realm of the divine. And then the divine play forever, as they say. But they become unaware that there is something beyond the divine. They become too self-indulgent, that they repeat the cycle. Like, when you live in a palace forever of infinite wealth, you decide to one day take away all of your wealth as play. You become the poor thing that cannot have any of the wealth. And that becomes exciting. And that's why there's a cycle of the divine becoming the inherent filth, right? You become the thing that is the lowliest of what the divine sees, and you do that endlessly.
Right.
Until you reach nirvana. And nirvana is escaping the cycle. But the thing about nirvana is that is nothingness. That is the absence of experience, the absence of all understanding, the absence of knowing, the absence of it is complete and utter emptiness, but it is the only true peace.
I wonder if nirvana gets boring.
There is no boring. Divinity gets boring. So that's the problem with it. That's why we're stuck in the karmic cycle. It's because we cannot escape the identities of these things that are called archetypes. We fall indefinitely and infinitely into the archetypical forms of
But what
all
if that's
identity.
because we've already been in a state of nirvana and we've already
Nirvana
experienced we've already experienced that infinitesimally small point and decided to come out the other side back into the filth.
There's no decision though. So the fucked up thing is emptiness is the entirety of all things. It's the equation 0 equals 1. Right? There is 0 and then there is 1. 1 is all of things, and that is the karmic cycle, and 0 is the outer perimeter of identity. It is the thing that says that there is no things. But the only way 1 can happen if there was a 0, right? The only way 1 makes sense is the counter, that there is something before 1. But the something before any identity is nothingness. And the paradoxical agreement that you enter when you assert that understanding is that when there is nothingness, there can never be anything. Right? So they're fundamentally at odds with each other. But within all of everything, there is a nothingness between every, like, if I think about it in like a flip book, right? If you flip if you have a flip book of like a cartoon and you go through it, it looks like it's moving. It looks like a complete picture, but there's the space and the time between each frame of nothingness. There is no identity to the flip book there. And I think that that's what reality is. And I think that like when you flip the light switch on or off, there is a state of the light being on, and then there is the not state where the light doesn't basically exist. There is no light. It's off. And reality, essentially, as we're experiencing it, when you do the mathematical equation, right, which is fucked up, is if you do an infinite series of on and off, you approximate something considered as one half, which means a state between on and off.
Yeah,
and that's what
we were talking about.
That's what
this in the
existence
last-
is. Yeah.
with Ethan.
Yeah, so all of existence is completely on. We're not at that point. Completely on is just God. Completely on is all of identity and existence all at once. And that's what we're a part of. That's what we're always kind of becoming. But then there's also the identity of off, the contrast to all of God. And it just so happens in the Hindu religion that in the karmic cycle, you're one. You're the one half approaching one. Right? And then to reach nirvana, it's actually to be in the off state. And the off state is where things actually start happening, oddly enough. Because when there is nothing there, for that to exist is a fundamental paradox. So for that to actually happen and to achieve that state of identity or lack of identity, that fundamental non-identity, is when things begin to happen. And that's what gives birth to other things. That gives birth to the on state again, the half state.
I feel like you're like God right now, and you're trying to teach your son, your like baby God, like how the universe works, and I'm just like, what? Can I go play with my tractors?
It'd be so funny when like I like die and like the actual God's like, the fuck was that? That's not even close.
You're so off.
What the fuck? Like a light switch? What are you fucking what? The Hindu religion? Just a bunch of people in South Asia? South Africa? Now I'm gonna get actually
Wherever
canceled.
those motherfuckers came from.
I love how like an inaccuracy and geographical if you don't understand geography completely correctly, you can just get canceled. You're like, India's in Africa, right? Like, ew, you racist. Like, no, what? I didn't.
I've never been there.
I've never left the U.S.
I gotta piss.
It's probably really annoying for the audio. I tap on the fucking thing like that. So, I think the fucked up problem with like all of this is that it doesn't matter how deeply you think about these things. One, there's always an infinite amount of wrong that you will be if you really think about these things deeply. You'll always be infinitely wrong about it. Just because of the fundamental starting position that you're in, can't observe the entirety of the object that you're trying to explain. So there's some fundamental fallacy that you'll be promoting to discuss any amount of the nature of reality. And then the other fucked up part is even if you approximate the 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 nature of reality in an accurate way, it's not going to help you do anything. You're still going to be subject to the same social and political pressures that constitute your existence, unless you determine that those social pressures that constitute your existence don't matter anymore. But that's how you become a social pariah. And if you become a social pariah, you run the risk of harming yourself or harming others. Or you advance society. And it's a very tricky balance. And then it's like, what's the point of advancing society if there's an infinite number of societies? And I've thought about this a lot, right? What's the point of advancing society if there's an infinite number of societies? An infinite number of ways where they will all happen. What is the driving factor for your identity to do that? And I think it comes down to just being the asymptote of divinity. At the moment that you are in, you are limited to the perspective that you have, and you're limited to the influence that you have over the universe as far as you're aware of, right? And that's where the meditative, artful practice comes in. And that's why it's so shameful when people just decide to choose business for their whole life. I mean, you can't blame them, right? It's a pattern that, unfortunately, you will get sucked into at some point in your reincarnative existence. You will be that guy who is just the business guy. You'll be the NPC. You'll be the NPC of the thing that you're observing. But also, occasionally you have the unique opportunity through whatever reincarnative force, if there is such a thing in the universe, to be a promoter of change in the system in which you feel or subjectively understand that you have an influence over. And that's when things become interesting. Is when you become aware of your ability to do things in the universe. When you become aware of your ability to influence the system that you're in. Then you almost have an obligation to play with it. And if you don't play with it, then you're being kind of just a dick who doesn't play with things.
Doesn't that happen
You become a boring bitch.
Doesn't that happen pre-becoming like the business person? Is the business person not aware of their influence and they're just acting
It can happen
based
at
on
any. It can happen at any time, right? There's the story of the guy who's like, I did business for 30 years and then I realized I could just fuck chicks and hang out on jet skis and then create cool art. It doesn't matter when it happens. And there's almost no morality to it, right? It just it's the nature of the self-awareness, really. It's like, is this something I'm doing because it's something that I've come to seemingly the conclusion on my own to do? Or is it something I'm doing because society has pressured me into doing and I've never thought twice about it? This is Nietzsche's whole argument for his entire life. This is what it means to become the lion, as Nietzsche says. You have this rebirth. You become the infant. And the only way you become the infant after being the lion, like, so you progress through life and you become this assertive figure in your role, and then you realize you only got there because you were riding off the identity of people that came before you, and then you have a rebirth, and it's a second life. It's the second life, and it's the true life because it's the life that you get to decide for yourself with your new cognitive abilities. And then, if you live long enough, there might even be a third, fourth, or fifth life, right? As you realize deeper and deeper your relationship towards the universe and your relationship towards the identity of self. And these are things that I think about when it comes to constructing your narrative. Like, what do you want your life? Like, literally, we're here to construct a narrative. There's nothing else we have to do. I don't have to go hunt fucking deer in the wild to survive. The society has taken away my pressure to do that, right? For the most part, I could just literally become homeless and steal from stores and, maybe hang out in jail and live the rest of my life in a prison system still eating, right? Like, I will survive regardless. In the jungle, if you decide to not do anything, you'll just starve to death. You can't steal in the jungle. You actually have to work for everything you eat, right? There's some amount of effort towards eating things towards sustenance that you have to give into the system. And it just so happens that any amount of effort you give into the system that we've created will constitute survival. It just limits your ability to do creative things. Like you can survive, but you'll be in jail and you can't do anything. Like, but they'll keep you there and they'll feed you or whatever. But so it comes down to this odd freedom. This freedom that's unnatural to decide what your narrative is. You have to come up with a narrative for yourself, a niche in which you can present yourself in society as a valuable member. And that valuable member will give you a friend group. That valuable member will give you income to participate in the system in which you live. And then maybe if you create enough wealth, you can detract yourself from the system reliably, if that's what you desire. Or you can go deeper in. But to go deeper in, you're now competing with a global narrative. And that global narrative is very, very, it's generationally persuasive. It's evolutionarily persuasive. So for you to cognizantly go against it is a very challenging task. You're going against that 3-pawn chess game, and it's been playing for 1 billion years. So good luck fucking winning. But people do, and then the chess game has to evolve, and that's why we have people like Elon. That's why we have people like Bezos. These are narrative is very fucking important. Narratives, it's almost essential to a survival, especially in the U.S. And a lack of a proper narrative is almost certainly correlative with depression. Guaranteed. It's not easy to not have depression. I mean, it is very easy to not have depression as a chimp that just wants to fucking eat. All you need is a little bit of community, a little bit of healthcare, and a good friend group, good social group. And if you feel like you're influential in your group, and you feel like you can make good decisions, and you feel like you're helping people, there's almost no chance that you're depressed. Or at least you don't have a depression that leads to suicide, right? But if you feel like you have no influence and you have no power, that's when the chimp brain starts to panic. When you can't fuck, when you can't procreate, when you don't have a narrative that fits within the system that's working. And the easiest way to fit within a system that's working is to find out the thing that you're interested in, create an identity around it, and it is by human nature that other people will start to identify with that thing so that it is of a high enough quality. That's why people who are fat and slobbish, who get really good at video games, can fuck hot chicks. That's not a fucking random thing. They're fucking those hot girls because that video game made them a lot of money and gave them status in society. Guaranteed.
God damn it. God damn it, Pizza Lover 420.
You stole my girlfriend,
stole
pizza
my-
lover 420. You're so good at headshots in Fortnite.
Not another collateral.
How did you kill my whole squad? At spawn.
Alright, dude. Should.
Why are these always depressing? I feel depressed now. Like, I feel like upset that life sucks in a weird way.
Maybe I just sucked the energy out of you because I feel
It's
like
not you.
I feel slightly better about my personal situation.
Do you? That's good. I feel annoyed that I have to create an identity around my narrative. Like I know what I have to do better in my life, and I just don't care enough to probably do it.
Yeah. I kind of feel like it's a weird, it's almost like a trap door.
You have to sacrifice yourself for the art. That's what art. That's why the best artists are the best artists. Is they will give their entire life for the art of what they're doing. And for me, if it was skateboarding, that would be really easy. But I'm too fucking old now. Right? I fucked
Or
up.
you're too old to.
I'm too old to even be competitive.
You're too old to become successful. Like.
I'm too old to advance at the rate.
As a person within the culture, but like, I don't know, it's a weird way of phrasing it, but like Van Gogh or whatever fucking artist out there whose work didn't become popular till hundreds of years after they died. It's not that they weren't successful like artistically, it's that the art that they were creating
wasn't valuable until later. The time frame wasn't.
accurate. I don't know.
Well, for me, it was like I was never good enough at skateboarding to do anything, even at the time, to be considered good at skateboarding, right? But I aspired to do it, and I was approaching. Like there was a time and a place in my skateboarding career where I definitely was like, oh, if I keep doing this and I keep practicing like I do, I will fucking learn everything. Like, it's guaranteed. And then there was this split where I became instead of going down that road, instead of maintaining that pattern, that mentality, I split into oh, I'm gonna go to college, I'll skate less, and then I started becoming scared of doing certain tricks. And when the fear sets in, oh, I don't want to injure myself because I have to go to work tomorrow. I don't want to have a broken arm at work. That's when shit gets fucking bad. Because I was no longer dedicating myself to the art of skateboarding. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so there was a point when I was young enough, if I would have been more deliberate and more rebellious, I would have became better.
Even then, you may have never become
and that would have been fine with me. Right? There's a version of me that would have been happy if I did that, even if I didn't become successful, because it would have been the full-on pursuit of the art itself.
Right.
And there would have been some sort of agreement with the universe that that's the decision I made, right? But then I'm living in the perspective of okay, well, I chickened out of that.
Yeah.
So now I have other ventures to put myself into, and so I'm now facing the dilemma of, do I deliver all of my identity and all of myself into doing a mundane corporate job to make enough money to supposedly have enough wealth on the weekends to maybe have a middle class life or just get by? Or do I do enough of the corporate shit to get by, but meanwhile also dedicate to myself to the art of doing a podcast, making music, to whatever dysfunctional ability I have to do that. At least provide my free time and have my narrative align with that identity. And so I've decided that the only thing I want my life to do is just to dedicate itself to science or art. And anything that gets in the way of that is fucking pointless and miserable to me.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want to work at Tesla anymore. There's no reason that I should be wasting my time for 12 hours a day putting clips on the side of a battery board all day.
Yeah.
Doing a remedial task that doesn't involve cognition. There's no thought. It's like you take 12 seconds to learn to do this one action and you can do it all day.
Yeah.
That's where I came up with the idea of boredom pay.
Boredom pay?
Yeah, it's literal torture. Like, you're going to have to pay me to torture me to do this for this long. Like, I need extreme amounts of pay to even justify doing this one remedial task all day. Like, literally, you have fucking robots that do way more complex things. You decided to cut a corner and have people do this instead of paying $200,000 for a robot to do it. You're actually paying more money for people to do this than to build a robot that does it. And it blows my fucking mind.
Yeah.
That people do that. People do that all day, every day for the rest of their fucking life.
That used to be like,
That's it.
There's an entire generation of people that that was the norm.
How fucking
Like
evil is that?
To just have one job.
There is some people who can do it.
50 fucking years.
There is some people who don't mind it. There's some people who feel like they're a part of something, and that's the best way they feel like they can contribute to society, and that's great.
Yeah.
For me personally, I've decided I can do a lot more than fucking stand here all day. And I can do a lot more with art if I put my time into it. I can do a lot more with science if I put my time and my mind into it than to fucking sit here and put a clip. Like, if that was the rest of my fucking life, that was hell. Like, literal hell. And not in the ha-ha sense, but that was like if the universe was winking at me. It's like, hey, if you don't get your shit together and try to do something important with your time, this is what you're gonna do for the rest of your fucking life, and that's it. And there's gonna be a point when even this sounds better than not doing anything.
Yeah, well, then
if
it
there's
comes
a memory
down
after
to
death,
the balance of finding something that can maintain, finding an occupation that gives you the resources to maintain.
And there
you
is.
You can be an artist and not have a job, but it's gonna limit. It's gonna also limit your ability to be an artist. I would think to some extent.
Yeah, I can't. If I
you
wanted
can't
to just
live
paint,
in a fucking house.
If I wanted to just paint pictures and sell them to people, it'd be very, very difficult to afford the place I'm living in now and to afford what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't even have healthcare or anything on top of that. So there's these weird traps. And I fundamentally believe that they're traps. The system is set up such that the working class is stuck to stay inside a working class system. It's designed that way, intentionally or not. It is literally, if you look at the design of it, there is almost no way out unless you seek further education. And unless you sacrifice so much of your time and your money to do something, which is not really even that earnest of an endeavor, right? So it's set up to the point where it's if you have a a job that pays you like 15 an hour, and you live by yourself in an apartment that you have like a 1 bedroom, and you have no roommates, and that's just how you want to live.
That's all you're doing.
Good luck getting another fucking job.
Yeah.
You know how scary that is to get another job and then like think that you could even survive.
It's like it's so outside of the realm of possibility.
And $15 an hour is what people are fighting for.
Yeah.
Most jobs will pay you like $8.25. So you have to have roommates. So you have the constant stress of people potentially moving out, leaving you behind to cover your own shit. And then if you're not a skilled enough worker, whatever the fuck that means. By the way, I've been in the upper echelons of, corporate work. I've been a project manager. It's not that skillful. It's honestly far fucking easier than anything I'm doing at Tesla.
It always appears, at least from the outside, that the higher up the ladder you go, the easier it is to do.
Honestly is. There is more stress. There's more stress because they get Tesla. I can go home and I can forget about my job.
Yeah.
But as a project manager, I could not. I could not go home and forget about my job as easily because I had to keep in mind deadlines and client whatever the fuck. So there's more stress involved. But my day-to-day, there's days where I just fucking surf the internet for 8 hours and then I went home.
Yeah.
The fuck? I didn't have to perform any task. I just fucking, I literally had nothing to do. And I was getting paid fucking $25 an hour to fucking look at YouTube clips.
Sounds pretty cushy.
And then above that, when you're a fucking director and your job is guaranteed secure, they just watch football games all day. I saw them do it. They were just watching sports, and then occasionally someone would send them an email that they have a really good relationship with, like that they go out drinking with. It's like a fraternity. It's like, oh, hey, my brother sent me this email from fucking accounting. I was like, I'm a director. I'm not insecure about losing my job. There's no, like for a director to get fired at the company that I worked at would be, you'd have to do something so fucking honestly horrific. Like, you would have to cost the company, like, $1 million or something. Like, you'd have to do something so fucking stupid to get fired. But if you did the bare minimum, of your work,
yeah,
you would get a bonus. Well, everyone who worked under you that actually did all of your work for you didn't get paid shit. I got a $25 Christmas bonus. And it wasn't even $25 because they took out taxes.
They took taxes out?
So it was $23.35 or some shit like that. It was some annoying amount of money.
Fuck.
I don't even think I cashed it. It was just an annoying amount of money. I was like, what the fuck is this? I was a project manager. And they're like, thank you. Here's $23.95.
You've been trying too hard for the company.
Meanwhile, they're getting like 10 grand bonuses for completing projects that I completed. I don't know if that's true, but it sounds good. I know they got money for shit. I don't know. I didn't really complete many projects, but
I've seen very few examples, though, of people like closer to the top of the pyramid who are still busting their ass day in and day out to and even that, the fact that they are still working so hard,
those are type A
makes it
people.
appear that they're not as successful as they are, because I have such a conditioned idea in my head that the people at the top are just not doing
anything,
fucking anything.
Well, they're really not. A lot of them, there's a lot of stress involved, and they have very important decisions to make.
Yeah.
But if you're a CEO of a company, you go into a business meeting and you just state your opinion and then you leave.
Make a couple phone calls.
Hey, Bob, why the fuck isn't this here? And you have the authority to do that, though. like if you ask me as a project manager in a company where I'm not a VP, I don't even hire people. I don't even have any control over the budget. And you're like, and they were telling me like, hey, tell this person to get in fucking line. I'm like, with what authority? With what authority? Like, what do I have as leverage to tell them to deliver on this project, right? And they're like, well, just, word it like you have authority. I'm like, okay.
Just appear to be powerful.
Yeah, and but there was also like that if you appear to be like too powerful, we'll reprimand you. Like you can't like be like, hey, get it done now.
Yeah.
That's our job to do that. Which I'm like, where's my fucking job then? Because like at the company I work for, it was like we're the VPs and you tell us when we need to step in. I'm like, okay, well, I think you guys need to step in. It's like, well, I think you should try a little harder to get them to do this thing. And I'm like, okay, I can. The best I can do is like, hey, you said you're gonna have this done by Monday. I haven't seen it yet. Can you give me an update on this? That's like the extent of my power.
That sounds like the worst fucking place to be is like the boss that's still underneath
The boss.
several bosses.
Yeah.
But still has to like maintain control over
The contract, yeah. I don't get to like dictate the contract. Like if I had power over the contract, I could be like, "Hey, look, I paid you this fucking much money. Get it fucking done."
Yeah.
That's like my authority, right? Like, "Hey, this is a legal agreement. You signed it. This is how much I paid you, and you said you would deliver by this time. I don't see the delivery. I want results now." And that's a completely okay thing to do in the corporate world. Exactly how I said it, right? But if I was to say that in my position, my old company, people would have been like, "Hey, you shouldn't talk to our clients like that." But then they would be like, "Hey, we paid you this much money to get this done by this time, and we don't see any results." And I'm like, "You just did that. You just did what I said." And now they're actually doing the fucking thing. And they're like, "Yeah, that's how you get it done." And I was like, "That's what I did." And then they're like, "Well, you can't do that." I'm like, "What? What?"
You're
So
not doing
fucking
enough
annoying.
cocaine. That's what it is. You don't have the full on cocaine vibes.
Cocaine and fuck midgets.
Yeah.
I should answer phones like that. The midget's like,
Hey, I need those papers in by Tuesday.
it's like the midget's like squealing like a guinea pig. Like it has like subhuman sounds.
Oh shit.
This is full. Who the fuck is that guy in the Lord of the Rings? What's his name?
Schmeagol.
No, because he's not like a midget. He's just like a creepy crawler. Who's the actual dwarf? The beard.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Gimli.
I think that sounds right.
Yeah. That's a big dick. Like what? Like we're Irish. Are all midgets Irish?
Yeah, definitely.
Like leprechauns?
Yeah.
Okay. They're like leprechauns.
Yeah, I've never seen a black midget. Actually, wait.
That's an interesting idea. Conspiracy.
I almost seen like as soon as I said it, I was like, "Have I seen a black midget before?"
They're just underrepresented in the midget community. They're just like black people are just unfortunately underrepresented in all communities. Damn.
No, but honestly, like any non-white person, I don't think I've ever seen a non-white midget. I
You
wonder
ever
if
seen an
that's
Indian
like
midget?
No,
Or like a Hindu midget?
no.
I've seen Mexican midgets. There's like a comedian who's Mexican. He's a midget.
I'm gonna have to do some research on that.
I love how we're not allowed to say midget anymore.
You know, I saw.
You have to say dwarf.
If you drive
Like a
down
mythical creature. That's so stupid.
like Victorian Avenue in Reno, there's a store called the Midget Market.
No way.
I swear to God. But I think they were trying to like play off of like the mini mart kind of idea,
And they just
just
totally
wanted
missed the
to-
mark.
they just
Just so
wanted
culturally
to be like a little bit
insensitive.
nouveau.
It's like it's a small
They wanted to
market, so we'll
stand
call it the
out.
midget market. Midget mart.
It's like it's run by an Indian dude who like didn't quite have his grasp on English.
Yeah. It's like midget means small, right?
It is small market,
It is small market,
tiny
right?
market.
Wait, you have to do it like a Scandinavian. It is small, tiny market, so we call it a midget market, right? Don't let my accent fool you. I believe in the Hindu religion, and I come from India.
I'm straight from. I can't think of a single
Single
city.
city, Indian city.
Yeah, I was gonna say Dubai.
I am straight from Bollywood. Straight out of Bollywood. I think
was
Bali is a town.
born in the Ganges.
The Kanji River. I was born in the Kanji River. That's really fun. There's almost too many things to cancel me for on this podcast. There's like, it's like, what do you pick?
Black midgets for sure.
Black midgets. The black midget conspiracy. I'm gonna name that's the title of this podcast.
the
Black Midget Conspiracy. That's gonna get a lot of views. I'm gonna get fired from my job. I will never be hired again just for the title of that. Jesus Christ.
One can.
Where
only-
are all the black midgets? I think they're underrepresented.
I think they're being suppressed.
Yeah, I think
Intentionally.
black midget lives matter.
100%.
Not just black full people lives matter.
Who cares about full-sized black people?
Yeah, I mean that's too common.
There are tiny black people out there struggling
Tiny
to get
black trans midgets lives matter. It's what's so funny about that? I'm being dead serious.
by. No, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, totally agree. Black trans midget lives matter. That might be the the title of this Black trans midget lives matter.
I gotta bounce.
All right.
I gotta go.
Right on. All right. So let's just restate the whole purpose of this podcast. We'll be making T-shirts. Please change your Instagram profile image to
A small black screen.
a small black square, please.
Yes.
That's transitioning to a white, like a purple square or something.
This
like,
Wednesday, August 14th.
Trans square. Small,
Tiny, small black midget
yeah.
awareness month.
Mm-hmm. If you don't, you're racist. Fucking racist? Are you racist? I don't.
We'll be listening for your silence.
Exactly. And that's the Go Show. Signing out.
Signing off. This is Chef Zeph signing off.
This is Tom from Tsunami.
I feel like
Signing.
it's almost necessary for me to make this awkward. Like I have to.
We
This is,
have to.
this is signing off right now. If there's not one slurp, like audio clip in this podcast, it's not a real podcast. There's not one like someone like yeah.
There's not a then what is it even a podcast?
Just slurping up a big old fucking wet noodle.
Yeah,
Wet
a
noodle
tiny,
of a podcast.
a tiny midget black dick,
Tiny little
trans,
black midget.
trans dick, tiny midget black dick load.
With the bone in it.
That honestly, do you want to know how much I care? Find me a trans black midget, and I will take their tiny little noodle load.
Did you know that
I'll serve it up.
black trans midgets have bones in their penis? They're very similar in structure to.
Did you know that black trans midgets are actually just whale seeds? And that if you throw them in the ocean, they'll grow into a full ass whale. And then they'll expose the secrets of the entire universe. And then white cisgendered men named Stephen Hawking will intercept and steal all of their ideas.
God damn it.
Yep. Well, that's full circle. Holy fuck. All right. Why are you still listening to this? Are you fucking weirdos? What the fuck? If anyone's listening to this, you're like, you should go to jail. You should be in prison. Like, this is like illegal. Some illegal shit you're hearing. Some dark web shit. Are you part of the dark web? Dark Horse Society? What's that fucking stupid shit that Brett Weinstein's a part of?
Oh.
Isn't it called Dark Horse? Isn't his podcast called Dark Horse?
No, but I've heard Dark Horse before.
I think it's the Dark Horse podcast.
I thought it was The Portal.
No, that's his brother, Eric.
Oh, Brett Weinstein.
Brett Weinstein has Dark Horse.
Might be right.
When autistic people get a hold of like interesting ideas, it can kind of become a problem. So they're like, we're gonna call it the Dark Horse podcast because, like, you know, the Trojan horse, and like dark means like things that are like subcultural, and we're kind of subcultural, and also, it also is like a Trojan horse, right? So we're gonna call ourselves a Dark Horse podcast, but we're also gonna like be really autistic about it and talk about really like mundane things and be very boring the entire time, but also expose really incredibly troubling things, but also occasionally be very mundane and boring at the same time.
Why are you listening to this?
If you're still listening,
If you're still listening to this,
that was an attempt to get you to fucking turn it off. And if
you
you're
have
still,
a severe mental disorder.
yeah, like you're either trying to like are you fucking her right now, and you just left it on. Oh my god, you are the worst person.
I bet
You made her listen to this podcast. You're like, hey, I'm enjoying, like, here's something I'm into. You should totally check this out. And then while you're checking it out, I'm gonna start touching your pussy. 2 hours later, bro, it's still on. I know you didn't last that long. Hey,
you just fell asleep.
yeah, hey, girl next to him, run. Don't look back. Get out of there now.
Grab your panties.
If he's a black trans
keys.
midget, throw him in the ocean, and you'll have a pet whale. If you're still listening, okay. I can't. I'm beyond canceled. This isn't even like a podcasting. This is just sad.
Solid.
All right, that's the end of the Go Show. Peace out, you dumb bitches. Just do that shit.